Hold on, I'm getting this ready. I'll come there when I'm done. I'm doing something. Why?
Satan is the name she goes by. There's a lot of devil in her eyes. A kiss of fire that burns you well. She breaks your heart and enters life. No words can tell. Lady in black, they call her. Your eyes can't believe that's all her. I got a thought, though you know your fate. The eyes of love will soon change too. The eyes of hate. Satan is her name. Hands off beginners. With her there are no winners. She pulls your heartstrings until they snap. It breaks your heart, but you surely know you're gonna crawl right back. Satan is the name she goes by. Satan is the name she goes by. Satan is the name she goes by. Satan is the name she goes by.
You've all heard of me and the things I've done. Satan's chauffeur don't play for fun. This coach is pulled with fire-bred steeds, and I know every one of your wrong deeds. Your name is on a page of our big book. Rich man, poor man, thief or crook, and it makes no difference how you moan. Oh, Satan and I want to hear you groan. Don't come to us on bended knees. We won't hear one of your false pleas. You had your chance but passed it by. Come on, sinner, now let's hear you cry. You'll beg, you'll plead, you'll bow your head. As you recall what the good book said, thou shalt not lie, thou shalt not steal. But Satan's court grants no appeal. When you ride with us, it'll be too late. Fire and brimstone will be your fate, and you can't turn this wagon back. Satan's chauffeur is driving this hack. Don't come to us on bended knees. We won't hear one of your false pleas. You had your chance and passed it by. Come on, sinner, now let's hear you cry.
first woman came from the rib of Adam the man. Oh, Satan's been round selling apples on a buy now, pay later plan. Satan's waiting, calculating, waiting just to lure you in. Satan's charming, most disarming. What's the harm in one small sin? Satan's smiling, he's so beguiling. Man, what style in every role. Satan's great in estimating what it takes to buy your soul. He'll hang around till you're ready, then right there before your eyes, he'll slip you a brew that is heady, and then surprise. Satan's waiting, contemplating, baiting traps to snare you in. Satan's chancy, in advance he loads the dice so you can't win.
Satan is the name she goes by. There's a lot of devil in her eye. Kiss a fire that burns you well. She breaks your heart and it hurts like words can't tell. Lady in black, they call her. Your eyes can't believe that's all her. Got to fall though you know your fate. The eyes of love soon change to the eyes of hate.
Hail Satan!
Old hands are beginners. With her there are no winners. She pulls your heartstrings until they snap. Breaks your heart, but you know you crawl right back.
So it's done. Hello, can you hear me? I think my mic is on now. A little bit of music in the back, or not music. Yeah, so welcome to the stream, everybody. Let me know if the microphone is working, because I can't hear myself through the computer. Hopefully it's working. Looks like it's working in Streamlabs. Now you see. What's up, Johnny? I haven't seen you in a while, man. How's it going? Shout out to Johnny E. If you guys like good trance music, he makes good music. So let me say hi to everybody real quick. Shit just froze. My chat keeps freezing. Hold on. What in the fuck is going on? Okay, there we go. So let me say hi to everybody before the chat fucking freezes again. What's up, Lucky? What's up, E Scorpio? Hail Oki, Johnny E. And I saw Basic earlier, that fucking faggot. Where's his bag pulled at? Am I the big titty devil chick in the pic? No. No, I'm just the big titty chick in the screen up here. So, I got a stream put together for you guys tonight. This is going to be the first one of October of House of Horrors. I'm going to stream every Saturday night at 11 Central. You guys can figure out what the other time zones are. So yeah, tonight is about Satanism and just satanic shit in general. I got the inspiration from it. I came across a song I was listening to, and I put it together. It was actually one of the songs in the beginning. It was called Satan Is Your Name, and I came across that song. I was like, oh, that'd be a interesting topic for a stream. So I took the song, put it together with a video, and then I ended up finding a couple other songs about Satan, and I was like, oh, this is kind of cool. So I made a couple of them. I hope you guys enjoyed the intro. Let me know if you liked it. And then so yeah, I was like, fuck it, I'll do a whole stream about Satanism. I found a whole bunch of cool videos, and we'll go through and watch them. And just so you guys know, it is my daughter's birthday at midnight. It's 11:14 here, so in 46 minutes, you might see me just randomly just walk away from the stream for a few minutes. I'll still leave the videos playing, but obviously at midnight, she's in the other room playing a video game, so I'm gonna go say happy birthday to her right away. Can't believe she's gonna be 8 already. They grow so fast. Alright, so now that I said what's up to everybody, just so you, in case anybody's interested, I do have Streamlabs set up, streamlabs.com/DJ Deplorable, and I also have a PayPal set up, so if anybody wants to donate to the stream, if you enjoy the content, you can send me some spooky shekels all throughout October. If you notice on my spooky shekel thing, I have $350 as the goal. Obviously, I don't expect to fucking raise that, but I put that number because I want to invest in a new video camera that has like night vision, and I forgot the other fucking one where you can see some kind of lights, whatever. It's for ghost hunting and shit, because I want to get more into the spooky stuff. That's why I started that other channel. I'll drop the links and stuff in the chat when I get a minute, or if one of the mods want to do it. So I want to get more into doing the spooky stuff, and right now I just have a GoPro. I don't know where it's at right now, but I just have a GoPro, and it doesn't have the right lens to pick up like night vision and all that shit. So I want to get a different camera and a light and all that stuff, and the total of all of it together was $350. So I'm like, here's my goal. This is what I want to invest in for the channel and for my other channel. So I really like spooky stuff, and I like making like, you know, creepy music and shit like that. And so fuck it, it'll help out if anybody wants to donate. It's gonna go towards, like I said, even all the other donations always go towards the channel, whether it's for my video programs or what music stuff, whatever. But specifically right now, I'm raising money for this camera because I do want to get more into like ghost hunting and all that shit. And yeah, so I'm gonna quit rambling and get this show going. And where is the fucking video thing? Hold on. I was gonna stream to D-Live, but I did a fucking stream earlier and was trying to fuck with it. And first I couldn't get both of them to stream at the same time to D-Live and YouTube. I'm not sure how to fucking do that. I'm gonna have to look more into that. And then once I was streaming to D-Live, I couldn't get my chat to work like on screen. Streamlabs kept telling me to log in even though I was already logged in, and then I would try to log in again, and then you click on the like connect button or whatever the fuck it was, and it didn't do anything. So I was like, fuck you, D-Live, and I turned it off and I just went over to YouTube. So for now, I'm going to be on YouTube, but I do have D-Live set up, so if you guys want to go subscribe over there, I'll drop the links there also when I get a second. Eventually, I'm going to get D-Live figured out. I see other people streaming on D-Live and YouTube at the same time, so I'll figure it out eventually. So if you guys want to subscribe over there for when I do get it going, because those stickers are fucking fun, and I got lots of Owen Benjamin ones saved. I'm sure you guys got good ones that I haven't seen yet. You can help me set it up? Fuck yeah, Johnny. Alright. Alright, let's get this started. Where's my video? Come on. There we go.
It has been said that if you look in the right places, you can buy anything in San Francisco. Let us suppose this young lady is looking for a love potion. She goes to a house on California Street and knocks.
I apologize
LaVey
if
is a
the
sorcerer,
audio is
a
low
magician.
on some of these
Young
videos.
girls
It's
come
literally
to him
as
for
high as
love
it'll
potions.
let me
Businessmen
turn it.
come to him for hexes and spells to be cast on their competition. He lives in a black house with black and purple
What's up,
walls on California
basic
Street.
fag holder?
It is filled with
Back
the
holder?
artifacts of sorcery, including stuffed animals. There is also a real lion.
I was wondering where you were at.
His
Get
main
lost in, Nate's
occupation
back
is
hole.
magic, such as helping girls
You
cast
do a
their
House of
spells.
Horrors stream all about Nate keeping single-on
I've
there in his
tried
basement.
everything and nothing seems to work. I wonder if you could help me. I understand you've helped people
It's a setting
in
in
matters
OBS.
of love.
Okay. Yeah, because I
Yes,
like
I
put my
have many
you put like your
people,
key
and I'm
stream
certain
in,
that I can help
key
you.
key
Now, if you'll just start
stream
out
key whatever the
by
fuck.
giving me
I'm
some
like,
information that I might need
yeah, just like follow
to
some video on
utilize the
YouTube.
charm
And he's like,
I'm
yeah, you
going to
copy and
place
paste
for
this
you.
in here and this in here, and you
Well,
change
I don't
this
know
to
just
2.
what you mean, but
and I don't
I've
know.
tried everything. I've
That's
tried
stupid.
being very appealing, and I just don't know what else to do. I'm very much in love.
Yes,
Oh, is he still
obviously,
streaming?
sometimes
I was
appeal
in there earlier and it
can only
sounded
go
like they were
so
gonna shut
far,
it down.
and then other matters must be taken into consideration.
Shout out to Sam and Apex.
If you will, would you step over to the other
And
side of the room
he's
by
Scorpio.
those charts, and I will join
Yeah,
you in a
stream
moment.
key.
Mr. LaVey,
I'm
do
gonna
you
quit
really
talking through
supply
this now.
young girls with love potions?
Sometimes I do, depending on the circumstances. Many of them have problems, affairs of the heart. Others, of course, want to learn to become more alluring, and they've exhausted all potential through charm schools and various other sources.
Do you know why your potions and hexes work?
Oh yes, because I believe that ritual magic is a very powerful force. It has been practiced by primitive societies for centuries. It still is being practiced. And of course, applied psychology, as we know it today, in many forms, is simply another
It's like when you say
word
bye to your
or
mom
another
like
use
10
of
times.
magic, except where the emotional appeal is not there, only the sterile clinical approach, one sometimes does not get the results.
Can you make anybody into a witch?
Yes, if by becoming a witch you mean practicing magic and sorcery, I think everyone is capable of learning this if they truly want to, if they have the desire to really change their lives. Of course, this is the most important thing, the desire to really change. Then they can utilize these formulas, and they are certainly very real formulas. There's nothing nebulous, there's nothing esoteric about them. They're just as much a formulated chain of events as mathematics, chemistry, or any of the other sciences.
Do you guarantee results with things like love potions and hexes?
I don't guarantee results, but I have naturally had many good workings, as I like to call them, and because of this I have had much repeat business.
Thank you very much. Tonight's feature report has been a talk with Anton LaVey, as far as he knows, the only practicing sorcerer in the United States. This is Jim Anderson.
Do you believe in God? Do you believe in Jesus Christ?
No. Irrevocably not. I believe that the Godhead resides within oneself. I believe that man creates gods in accordance with his own needs. And if he doesn't, someone else will create them for him.
I don't know if you guys can see it, but I got this cool fucking shirt.
Satan is the essence of that which dwells within myself.
But I'm wearing
Would you
sweatpants.
explicate this?
Satan is
Business on the
the
top,
pioneer, the inventor, Prometheus. Satan has always been the scapegoat, the other, as Thomas Saz, the psychiatrist, calls him. He has always been the opposition to what has been established at the time. The counterbalance that creates change, that creates evolution, that sets the climate socially for modification. Because without this so-called evil, there could be no change. Formulated and organized into a productive social force that takes or accepts the premise that man is not a creature to be redeemed, but one who must recognize within himself his own potential, his own liability, and deal with them accordingly. We feel as Nietzsche felt when he obviously wrote Also sprach Zarathustra. His opinion is that man can no longer fall back on established religion as a sort of identity, a collective identity. And occultism is a sort of do-it-yourself God kit, in whatever form it takes, oriented towards personal power. As a result of this, those who could be accepted collectively simply by being Christians at one time, for example, now find that with automation, with advances in technology, that their roles as human beings are lessened a great deal, are much less viable than ever before. So as a result of this, they have set themselves up in sort of a minor godhead role, or God role, or goddess role, in a specious, or rather illogical at times, form of importance, or sense of importance. So I honestly...
Oh, and by the way, before I forget, because I didn't notice it while I was streaming earlier today, because I was in the other room putting my daughter's new computer chair together, eScorpio sent a Streamlabs donation, so I'm going to play it again. I think if I click this button, it's supposed to play again, so we're going to try it. If it doesn't, then whatever, but...
There is no God. There is no God. I'm squirting and I can't feel it, but at least I can see it with my dead eyes. I'm squirting. I'm squirting. I'm squirting. I'm squirting. There is no God. There is no God.
For more spaghetti strap streams.
Thank you, eScorpio. And back to the Satanism.
I honestly feel occultism gives many people a chance to be big fish in little ponds. That man must learn, of course, his animal nature by studying the nature of the beasts and from the children, this childlike sense of wonder, and to be able to relate to these things within him and the animal within him in order to develop into the higher man, the man who is ultimately going to succeed or to survive on this planet.
In your book, The Satanic Bible, you say, hate your enemies with a whole heart, and if a man smites you on one cheek, smash him on the other.
Yes.
Do you believe in this?
Yes, very much so. I think
Anton's real
everyone
sense
does,
of Satanism was more of
except they cloak
anti-establishment,
it in
anti-Christianity.
forms of false
They did for sure.
altruism or false
and
morality.
occultism.
They feel
Yeah.
that there's so much repressed aggression and repressed hostility that is never allowed to manifest itself because of teachings such as turn the other cheek, that it has made man an intrinsically vicious creature because he's bottled up all of these feelings, or he channels them into what would appear to be innocuous directions that are actually much more harmful to those who are around him.
Don't you think, or like some of your critics say, that Satanism is an excuse for sexual and orgiastic excesses of some of the people who like to look after the animal instinct?
Yes, I fully agree that it is an excuse, but then I also agree that Christianity has been an excuse for many too, because there are many sects of Christianity that believe that in order to attain a spiritual quality or some sort of communion with God, one must be purged of any carnal desires, and the only way to rid oneself of carnal desires is to release them fully. And of course the Klishti in Russia believe this, that there's this Winklein, this little flame that's inside of everyone.
The flames coming out of the butthole.
Some time ago, the wire services and newspapers carried a story out of San Francisco describing the first satanic wedding ceremony ever
So
performed.
I actually used to own a
The
satanic
picture showed a
Bible when
nude
I was in
woman
high school.
lying on the altar
I
behind
wasn't like
the
a
guest,
Satanist or anything.
whom
My
you see
friend
now,
stole
the
it from
Reverend
Barnes and Noble
Anton
for me.
Zandor
And I'd like
LeVay,
take it to school and
who is
leave
the
it on my
founder
desk.
and high
And then,
priest
like,
of the
black
First
kids would
Church
leave
of
you
Satan.
alone 'cause they'd be like, they're
Anton
like super
Zandor
superstitious
LeVay
about shit
uses
like that.
as somewhat of a credo this timeless quote: "Remember, evil backwards spells live."
It's amazing how evolution and psychology cross over so well.
Somehow that never occurred to me.
It never occurred to me until one of my disciples brought it forth, and
Like a lot of
I
the stuff,
imagine,
like I read the Satanic
it's
Bible.
quite true.
I don't
Many
remember
of us.
everything because it
How
was
often
like
you
in
have
high
to
school.
shave
so
your
that
head
was
to
like
make it
15
shiny like a
fucking years
devil?
ago.
I have to put Vaseline on it as well to keep it shiny. I shave it once a day. Can I
A
give
lot
it
of it made
Is that the odor you're
sense, you
getting
know?
off now,
It was-
Vaseline?
No,
Could have
that's
fooled me.
that's
But then
musk.
there was stuff
That's
that I was
just
just
the
like,
goatee
no, I
scent
don't
you
believe in
smell.
that either.
For sure it's not frankincense and myrrh.
No.
It's like I never find
Now,
anything.
what is this
that,
ring you're wearing here? Looks like it's weighing your hand
Fully-
down.
Well, no, it's a magical ring.
It is?
I have little children rub it, make a wish, and it comes true.
Little children come near you?
Of course.
Little children rub it. It sounds like something Joe Biden
Little
would
children.
say.
What kind of a wish did that ring ever make come true?
Well, I would say a great many wishes, but we won't go into them.
Now, you call yourself a satanic priest.
Yes.
Is that the opposite of God?
You wear a cape, you're
No,
a fucking
because
Fruit
Satan is a
Loop.
god too.
Well, what are you then? The dirty pope or what?
Oh, I guess you could call me that if you want to say the black pope or the dirty pope or the advocate of, for example, the
Dirty
kingdom
Sanchez.
of night or darkness. No one's ever come forth so far and spoken up for the devil. Everybody that's made rules and regulations concerning the devil or the devil's work,
Exactly,
the devil's
Johnny.
activities have been people
Like, I
that have
remember
been very
reading in it-
righteous people during
I remember one of
crusades,
the
people
things
Well,
I
I'm
read
not
in
too
it
righteous,
was,
but on the other hand, I think you're a bit of a...
saying that, you know, in Christianity, you're supposed to turn the other cheek when somebody does you wrong. But, like, in Satanism, they're like, fuck that, you know? Like, somebody fucks with you, you fuck with them back. Like, I don't know. I should probably reread that book and see what's all in it. Because, like I said, I don't remember everything. But I remember that was in it.
Ding-a-ling, let's face it.
I'll
Were
see.
you ever a religious fellow?
I would say not particularly.
You're a young man.
I'm a religious fellow now, though.
How old are you?
I'm 36.
36. Who ordained you a satanic priest?
I would say probably.
Yeah, a lot of it,
I
like I
received
said, a
the
lot of it
call.
made sense, and a lot of it was just like, no.
Just as any
And then
fundamentalist.
that's the same thing.
I find
I haven't read the entire
this is, of
Bible.
course,
I
the
try
whole
reading
principle
it,
of my religion.
and
Is
it's not for me.
all of the
What do you mean you
concepts.
received the
Just
call?
all
You mean one
sounded
day
like
the devil said,
bullshit to me,
go
too.
out, Anton Zandor LeVay,
I'm not saying
and
it's
give
not
people
true.
hell.
That's about it. That's about it. Because people like to have a hell of a time, don't they?
Well, of course, there are all kinds of definitions of that.
Well, now
I don't, I mean, to marry two people without a license in front of a naked babe lying up on an altar, I don't know what that is.
I say just live your life.
Well, seriously, there
are
are explanations for these things. And how I started was as a result of various reverse forms of therapy. I haven't been a satanic priest all my life, as you probably gathered.
You've probably been an inmate part of your life.
Well, an inmate in possibly a pretty big institution.
Are you at all afraid that someday, after you get through this big put-on, with your little red yo-yo and your big fat ring and your shiny bald head, that when they do pack you away...
Dude's like totally getting
if there's any justice, you've got to really get it.
Yes,
Are you planning on training a lot of little devils?
Only those that wish to become little devils.
Are you married?
Oh, yes.
You have any little devils?
Oh, yes, I have two.
Are you going to raise them as satanic kids?
Certainly, but not to go around chopping people up or sacrificing human beings, just to...
That would be the greatest reward of all, if your kid some night would creep in and set fire to you and your lion.
Well, no, no.
And then dance around with pitchforks and say, "Look at Daddy, look at Daddy!" Huh? Now, if you sleep with your lion, where does Mrs. Devil sleep?
Well, she sleeps with the lion, too, you see. Not between us, though. The lion's on one side.
Makes for a nice group.
I don't believe in separating church.
I wasn't reading it trying to prove anything. I was just reading it with an open mind. Like, okay, I've never read this.
And the devil after these
and
words.
I got like a couple chapters in, and I'm like, this is ridiculous. I don't know. Like, so how can people think that these stories
listen,
actually
time's
happen?
all up. I'd like to tell you where to go, but you'd enjoy it.
Oh, that's good.
We'll be back with another guest after these words. Stand by.
LaVey, the Church of Satan is dead. The death certificate says Anton LaVey died on Halloween, and perhaps that is fitting for a man who became one of San Francisco's special characters after he founded his own so-called satanic church. There were nudes on the altar, a pet lion, and a house painted black. Bob McKenzie has our report.
Inside the infamous Black Victorian this morning, Anton LaVey was not only present in spirit, but in wax, on loan from the Wax Museum, and also on the mantle, where his ashes reside in a jar next to one of his favorite skulls. The high priest of the Church of Satan died last week at the age of 67 of heart disease. Today, his daughter, Carla LaVey, and his longtime companion, Blanche Barton, told the press that Anton's church will go
her,
on.
like, hair and face are the same
will
color.
always be our leader. He was our founder. He started this movement. No one will ever take his place.
The reason he founded the Church of Satan and wrote the Satanic Bible is because Satan is the ultimate rebel. He's the free thinker. He's will, defiant to the very end. And I think all of us have a little of Satan in us.
Carla LaVey will take over as high priestess of the group. Barton is busy raising the young child she had with LaVey. In 1966, LaVey, a sometime lion trainer, photographer, musician, and hypnotist, founded the Church of Satan in San Francisco. When he performed a satanic wedding in 1967, it hit the national press. For years afterward, LaVey was the darling of the media, always good for some copy on a slow day. He gathered adoring supporters with his goofily sinister trappings and his self-styled Satanist philosophy. That philosophy was an eccentric blend of 60s nonconformism, Ayn Rand-style individualism, and odd bits of witchcraft, dressed up with plenty of showmanship. Enemies who took him seriously called him evil. Enemies who didn't take him seriously called him a con man. His career peak came in 1968, when he played the devil in Rosemary's Baby.
No dream, this is really happening.
You described your childhood as a normal one.
It was actually very normal in a way. I thought it was, but what I didn't realize was that when I went to school and we reported on what our pets were, of course mine was a pet tarantula, an alligator, and a lion. And most of the other children had maybe a cat, a dog, or a goldfish.
Pet tarantula. Here, my daughter's been fucking with me, telling me she wants to get a tarantula.
A friend of the family, played one of LaVey's compositions, called A Hymn for the Devil.
He said it was epitaph, something to the effect of, I only regret times that I was too nice.
Whether Anton LaVey was an evil man or just a nice guy in a black outfit, he was at least a colorful character, and the city will be a little paler without him. In San Francisco, Bob McKenzie for the...
Well, I'm very much into philosophy. A lot of different philosophers that I've read over the years, like Nietzsche, Darwin, Freud, Aleister Crowley, and finally Anton LaVey. And fortunately, he's still alive, so I got to meet with him and talk about his ideas and things like that. And in America, Satanism is sensationalized and kind of misunderstood, and people associate it with worshiping the devil and things like that. But it's really a philosophy about individuality and self-preservation. It's about being your own God. And that's a lot of the things that I've agreed with, so that's why I became friends with him. But by no means is that the only idea that I associate myself with, because I incorporate a lot of different philosophies into what I'm about, including Christianity. There's a lot of valuable lessons to be learned from the Bible. I just feel that...
See, and that's how I am too. Like, I take shit from all different places. Like, I don't stick to one specific thing. Like, stuff makes sense here, stuff makes sense there. Like, I don't see... I mean, if everything makes sense to you in Christianity and you don't believe anything else anywhere else, fine. But that's you. But I'm like this guy, like Marilyn Manson. Like, I take shit from everywhere. Like, even, I don't know if you've ever looked into animism. That's some interesting stuff. Like, it's, like old Native American type religion, like worshiping like nature and stuff like that, and believing that everything has a soul, like, animals and the trees, like, everything. It's all fucking energy.
The way a lot of people interpret it, particularly in the USA, is very hypocritical, and that's what I'm trying to open people's mind to, that there is different ways of looking at things rather than what we've been told over the past several hundred years. It was more of an honorary title, sort of because of all the work that I've done in music, he felt had a positive effect on, what he was trying to say. So it was kind of a reward of sorts. But it's more of a friendship, it's not a role that I'm, obligated to portray or anything like that.
Shit, that's loud. My bad.
Exclusives: a satanic sexual encounter leaves a man with nearly 300 stab wounds.
12 News' Brendan Conway is live on Milwaukee's east side, where the victim was found half naked, cut, and bleeding.
Jason's the police say
they
found
you hear
the
about
victim
shit
in
like
the middle of
this,
the street,
you're
that
like,
he was
no,
bleeding
bro.
badly. They
I
say
ain't
they
into
followed
that.
his blood trail through
No.
the street, up the sidewalk, and up the stairs of this
Bitches
third
be
floor
tripping.
apartment building, where they say the victim says he spent 2 days tied up and tortured. What happened in this third floor apartment on Milwaukee's east side over the weekend is almost too bizarre to believe, but court records lay out a story of sex, violence, and possible satanic activities. According to a search warrant obtained by 12 News, an 18-year-old man came to Milwaukee from Arizona to meet with a woman that he met online. It's unclear what he hoped would happen, but he tells police after arriving by bus, he spent 2 days in the apartment tied up, getting cut, slashed, and stabbed. By the time he escaped, doctors say he had more than 300 wounds covering his body. 21-year-old Rebecca Chandler was arrested at the scene. According to court documents, she told detectives she was having sex with the victim and that the cutting was consensual, but that it got out of hand. Chandler told police that her roommate of a few months, Scarlett, did the majority of the cutting. Chandler says she doesn't know Scarlett's real name, but she thinks Scarlett is involved in the occult. According to a list of things seized from the apartment, there were a number of occult-type items, including a book, the Necromantic Ritual Book, which claims to teach consciousness with the angel of death on an intimate level. A neighbor who didn't want to go on camera out of fear told me he heard the suspect escape. He says it sounded like someone was running for their life. Police say they found a pool of blood inside the apartment, and there are still blood stains on the banisters and walls. 21-year-old Chandler has no criminal record. Both her and the other suspect in the case are being held in Milwaukee County Jail awaiting formal charges. I talked to the victim on the phone this afternoon. He did not want to talk about his ordeal, but he says he is recovering from his injuries. Putting live on the east side, Brendan Conley, WISN 12 News.
Prosecutors are reviewing the contents of computers to unravel the motive behind a satanic sex
can hear her
attack
Wisconsin
on Milwaukee's
accent.
east side. Colleen Henry joins us from the site of the attack with new information. And Colleen, you talked to witnesses and the district attorney, who says the case poses some unusual challenges.
Well, Kath, the apparent victim in this case does not want to prosecute, and the suspects who live behind me say that the episode was consensual. That makes what investigators find on those computers even more critical to their decision on whether to prosecute.
He was cut. He was given breaks between cuts like he wanted, and he was given water when he asked for it, and he was given medication too, pain reliever.
And during that time, did he ask to be released?
Yes.
And did you release
Share
him?
the stream out, everybody.
No, because
Let's
that
get
was
some
not
more
what we
people up in
agreed
here.
to.
12 News was there 11 days ago when prosecutors released the woman behind the rendezvous while they continued to investigate. She didn't want her face shown, but told 12 News she and her roommate invited the 18-year-old Arizona man to their east side apartment for a satanic sex encounter. But after 3 hours, he broke free and threatened to kill her.
I ended up getting kicked in the head and stuff like that, and I was stabbing him too.
Bitch, what?
And there's just so much blood all over it.
Jay Lindsay works nearby and was waiting for a bus that night.
Guy is walking in the middle of the street. He has like a rope tied around his neck, and his shirt and pants are just covered in blood. Like, he looked like a zombie when we saw him.
Staff at the nearby county Clare helped with towels as police arrived.
He didn't have any shoes or socks on, and his feet were bleeding.
Even though he left a trail of blood in the stairwell and sidewalk, the victim's family told 12 News he doesn't want to prosecute.
I don't blame him. Like, I would want it to all go away too. You
Yeah,
wanna go
I looked
have a
into
good
this.
time
Like, I
and
tried to
something
look
like
this
that
bitch up,
happens. You
and I couldn't find any court
crazy
records for
satanic
this.
women
'Cause he
that
didn't
want to
press charges.
sacrifice you or whatever it is.
Prosecutors hope computer communication between the women and the man will clarify what expectations were before the incident and may help resolve
happened
whether
in,
the women
2011.
acted in
Look at
self-defense,
these bitches.
as they say.
Were you surprised to learn
That's
that he
who I
told
wanna
police
meet off
he
the
was
internet.
held against his will?
Yes, because that's a lie.
Do you believe a crime was committed?
No.
Fuck is
I
this
believe
shit?
it's just something that got out of hand for both parties. That's it.
Now, the DA says consent may not actually be a defense, and if prosecutors decide to charge in this case, they can get a court order to force that Arizona man to return to Wisconsin to testify. They say a decision on charges may not come until mid-December. At Astor and Knapp, Colleen Henry, WISN 12 News.
Time for a music break. You guys remember this song? I hope this doesn't get taken down.
The devil went to Jamaica. He was looking to sell some weed. He was doing fine. They were standing in line. It was excellent weed indeed. When he came across this young man who was likewise peddling pot, and the devil slid down the beach to the kid and said, "Boy, let me tell you what. I guess you kind of figured I'm a reefer head, of course. And after all this time, I guess that I'm a connoisseur of sorts. Now your stuff smells okay, but this could tranquilize a horse. I'll bet $1 million in cash against your stash, 'cause I think mine's better than yours." The boy said, "My name's Johnny, and you ain't smoked nothing yet. One hit of this grass will kick your ass. You got yourself a bet."
Hey, Johnny.
Johnny, roll a ball of
It's your
hash
song
and make
for
sure
you.
it's the bomb. 'Cause the devil's got the kind of stuff they smoked in Vietnam. You'll get $1 million smackaroos in cash if you can cope. But if you can't, the devil will get your dope. The devil packed a bong with a little Acapulco gold, and resin flew from his fingertips as he fired up his bowl. He filled that chamber all the way, and he took a mighty hit. And as they passed it back and forth, it gave them both a coughing fit. Damn.
We gotta have some
When
fun
the
on
bowl
this
was
stream
finished,
too. You
Johnny
can't just
said,
have
"Hey
all
man, that
fucking
stuff was great, but fill your
crazy
lungs
Satan
with some of
shit."
this and prepare to vegetate. Cannabis sativa, sweet Mary Jane. The devil's in the backyard frying his brain.
I'm just sitting here praying
Zigzag
my
filled
fucking
with a
stream doesn't go
diggity-dag.
down because of the fucking melody.
Hold on tight, it'll hit you like a tank.
but I didn't see any copyright things on the
The
video that
devil
was
nodded
posted,
off because
so I'm
he
like,
knew that he was
I'm
stoned,
gonna take the risk.
and he asked if he could buy an ounce of the stuff that Johnny owned. Johnny said, "Devil, just come on back if you ever want to catch a buzz. I done told
said
you
Johnny.
once, you son of a bitch, mine's the best there ever was." And they fired up doobies one by one. Ain't it gonna stop till the bag is done. Green as a bullfrog, sticky as glue.
Frog for freaking game!
Granny, do you get high? Yes, I do.
That's gonna be me as a granny. Fuck yeah. Alright. So this is on some channel called, like, the Church of Satan.
Well, it's not Satan
But
worship.
I'm gonna go grab
it's
some coffee real
Satanism.
quick. I'll be
It's
right back.
embracing the life-enriching things which have traditionally been given the devil's name.
My mods better show
Pride,
the fuck
lust,
up.
earthly
They're
success,
all gonna get
rational
fisted.
self-interest, atheism,
Better tell
humor,
them that.
talent, nonconformity, science, a passion for living, being selective about whom we love. We don't see these as shameful sins, but empowering ideals. And we also recognize the psychological power and fun of symbolism and aesthetics, so we utilize Satan as mythology's most fitting mascot for what we're about.
When it comes down to it, Satanism is a way of being religious about your own life. It's an embrace of everything that makes you different, but rooted in an awareness that you are an animal. Satanism is realism, it's individualism, it's symbolism. Satanism is my religion.
When NPR interviewed me, I summarized our philosophy as just don't be a dick. But it's more than that. It's about absolutely being fully honest and present with yourself and others, about recognizing the best and worst of ourselves and our human nature as just that. We're animals. We celebrate our gifts to the absolute fullest. We're atheists who live in the here and now. We have no gods or demons to blame or credit for our success and failure. We call a spade, and we take great joy in challenging others to think for themselves.
Satanism for me is about living life to the fullest. This life is the only life that there is, and when the lights go out,
Probably be fine
there's
if it's not
nothing
the
else
actual
beyond this
version.
world.
I don't know, because I've
Pursue
gotten
that
copyright strikes
which brings you
for
pleasure. Avoid that which brings
the
you
melody,
pain.
like one of my
Be
own
who you
Benjamin
want to be.
videos
Do
where
what
he's
you
doing that
want to
fucking
do
Oasis
and
song,
live
but it's
the
about
life
mass.
that you want
And
to live.
I got a copyright thing
That
on
to
my video. Like I
is
didn't get a strike, but it's got a copyright thing on it because it's using the melody of Oasis, even though it's not the same lyrics. So
Now
I
our
just
top
can't
story, the
monetize
search is
that
on this
video.
morning for the vandals. Police say have targeted several churches on Long Island.
Investigators say they're leaving behind symbols of hate. CBS 2's Allie Bauman joins us live from Copeg with the latest. Allie?
Well, the hateful graffiti was sprayed right on these front doors just in time for weekend mass. And now Suffolk and Nassau County Police are investigating several hate crimes in their areas. These church doors, the target of vandals. This demonic symbol was found spray painted at the Zion Gospel Church in Copeg Saturday morning. Suffolk County Police believe the same culprit or culprits is responsible for at least 2 other similar acts of vandalism at churches in Amityville within the past 48 hours. This spree comes days after parishioners in East Meadow found different graffiti with a similar message at the New Covenant Church. The side doors spray painted with devil-worshipping symbols and witchcraft hexes, and the front doors smashed.
If somebody came and painted your house up with satanic symbols, I think you'd be disturbed too, because you don't know who they are, and you don't know if they would come back.
Nassau County Police have increased patrols there since, as parishioners are praying for whoever is behind such acts of hate.
Whoever it is, we're praying that that God would just reach out to them and touch them.
The Suffolk and Nassau County Police are still investigating if the same suspect is behind all of those hate crimes and are asking anyone with information to come forward. We're live in Copeg. Allie Bauman, CBS 2 News.
Allie, thank you.
Part 2.
Satanism is a religion codified by Anton Szandor LaVey on Walpurgisnacht in 1966 with the formation of the Church of Satan. It's a religion that celebrates vital existence and rejects spiritual pipe dreams. It empowers those who identify with it by offering a rational philosophy of carnal indulgence and an insistence on both questioning all things and study over worship. We Satanists recognize our faults and strive to become the best versions of ourselves while looking our personal best and having a hell of a good time in the process.
Satanism encourages the celebration of the ego, of the self. It certainly doesn't encourage worship of anthropomorphic devils or any monotheistic claptrap or herd mentality activism, unless it benefits the individual. I find it so humorous, all the misinformation that's out there by the uneducated, but it matters not. I am my own God. And thanks to Satanism, I'm a pretty damn good one.
In the entire history of religion and the esoteric arts, humanity has been seeking divinity in the universe, whereas the dominant theosophical view has been interested in the sacred, the ethereal, and oneness of existence. Satanism revolutionized the magical arts by being the first practice to stand in direct opposition to those values. Satanism is thus the first religion on the face of the earth to venerate the profane, the material, and strength through individuation.
Satanism is a modern religio-philosophy that embraces human need for ritual and dogma and fellowship, while dispensing with the antiquated and, more often than not, utterly irresponsible need for a god. If I had to put that in a nutshell, I'd essentially tell everyone, it's all on you. Hail Satan.
The Salem-based Satanic Temple isn't your grandfather's Satanic Church. For starters, they don't worship Satan. In fact, the temple, which has 17 chapters across the U.S. and 5 more abroad, says on their website they do not promote a personal belief in Satan, arguing instead that for them the devil is a symbol, quote, in opposition to arbitrary authority. Over the years, the temple's members have raised the national profile by fighting for the freedoms afforded to other religions, including here in Boston, where they accused the city council of discrimination for denying the group's request to deliver the invocation at the weekly meeting at City Hall. And in several states across the U.S., where the group has demanded that satanic statues appear along Catholic ones in public spaces, prompting public outcry and protests, which were documented in the new Magnolia Pictures film, Hail Satan. The Satanic Temple was founded in 2013, but just last week they were granted tax-exempt status by the IRS, making them an official church in the eyes of the U.S. government. The temple's co-founder, Lucian Greaves, joins me now. Lucian, it's good to see you. Thanks for being here. So you got to explain this to me. You don't worship Satan. You don't believe in the existence of Satan. So it's not like a Rosemary's Baby kind of experience, right? So what do you believe in?
Well, we consider ourselves a non-theistic religion, and part of the battles we fight, even though you see primarily these battles which are framed as Satanists versus Christians, where we're looking for equal access to public grounds. There's also a bigger battle for equal opportunity, for exemption and privilege for non-believers and anybody who has claims of consciousness to go along with their deeply held beliefs. And we feel we have all the elements that any religion should. We have an ethical structure, we have our own community, we have our own set of practice, and we have our own types of literature and congregants who get together at our place, our establishment of worship, as the IRS would call it, even though we don't use that terminology necessarily for ourselves.
But you did apply for the status, though.
Yeah, we did apply for the status.
You don't believe in the supernatural either?
We do not believe in the supernatural.
So as you say, non-theistic religion, to many of us that's oxymoronic, but
it shouldn't be, right? Because in the United States we believe we live in a pluralistic democracy where everybody has an equal capacity for civic engagement. And when you're giving preference to people who hold supernatural beliefs, which we term superstition in any of its manifestations, you are giving second-class status to people just because they don't believe in the unprovable.
So why are you, my understanding, you're a humanist to me, Not to you, though. What is the difference between your temple and what people like me say is humorous?
Well, the idea that a lot of people have is that we are Satanists merely to provoke and offend people of the Judeo-Christian faith.
I was going to use the first verb, not the second, but the provocation part, but you don't buy that either.
Well, that's a happy byproduct of what we do. But a lot of us grew up in Judeo-Christian culture and have somewhat bad feelings about that kind of cultural indoctrination we went through. And it's begun to mean something else to us. Even at a metaphorical level, it's still very powerful and it resonates with us, and it kind of sets up the narrative framework of where we think we belong in the social order.
But how are you not humanists again? Give me a sentence on why I'm wrong.
Because we're Satanists. Because that symbology, that set of that kind of narrative structure, that socio-political counter myth of Satan means something to us, and it's something that kind of helps motivate our works. And
so what is Satan?
Who
is Satan
in our
to you?
art.
What is Satan to the Satanic Temple?
We're more in line with the Milton vision, the Paradise Lost vision of Satan, the rebel against ultimate tyranny.
You know, it seems to me, I'm going to try another one. I didn't succeed on the humanist front. What you guys are doing, and if I'm right, I love it, is you're working to protect the state-church divide. Is that not a fair description?
That's a large part of what we do, and we see theocracy imposing itself, we feel, into our politics today. And a lot of the reason we sought our IRS exemption status wasn't necessarily for the financial benefits, because we don't reap enough financial rewards for it to be meaningful. We are tax exempt, but more importantly to us, we feel that this legitimizes us in the eyes of the law to the point where some of our legal cases being...
Go back. Why is it like attached to his head like that? Like, isn't that weird? Don't people usually have like a space right here? What?
Legitimizes us in the eyes of the law to the point where some of our legal cases being fought right now, where the defense is hinged upon this idea that we're merely satiric, those kind of go away.
So it's going to buttress your case. That's exactly where I was going, to get whatever is a statue in Minnesota, or those kinds of things. You're a religion according to Donald Trump's internal revenues. When you held up, and we got the paper, you got to say, do you believe you did say that, didn't you? Were you surprised you got it?
I was surprised we got it when we did. I expected they would come back for more and more clarification, that they would put us under increasing amounts of scrutiny before we finally got the letter that validated us, but we got it.
Quickly, if you can, what's the next thing we're going to read about you guys doing in the newspaper? What's the next project?
Winning our lawsuit in Arkansas, where they put up a Ten Commandments monument but denied our monument going up. Their whole argument was based on the idea that we're not a legitimate religion. Now the defense has to scrap that argument entirely, and I think we'll win in summary judgment.
Congratulations. Nice to see you, Lucia.
Thank you.
Satanism is a religion and a philosophy. Since its inception, mankind has finally been given a clear, concise explanation of what it means to be human. We are carnal beings. We seek pleasure through our indulgences, comfort and laughter in the company we keep, safety and solace in our chosen abodes, and we always strive to be the best. These qualities in man have been under constant attack for thousands of years. Some of us have realized our true nature. Satanism is here to stay.
What is Satanism? Satanism is not for everyone. We believe you are born a Satanist, not made one. We believe in eye for an eye and utilize magic to attain our desires. We do not believe in the supernatural. Our magic comes from within. We are our own gods, deciding for ourselves what is best for us. We indulge in all the pleasures that life can give us because we do not believe in an afterlife. Here and now is our paradise.
Number one, I am an atheist and I accept man as one of the animals of the animal kingdom, neither spiritual nor divine. Number two, I practice satanic magic, and it's very effective, it definitely works, and it's unlike any other form of magic out there. And number three, most importantly, I have taken the name of Satan as part of myself. The mythological character of Satan is the most perfect exemplar of my true self. And by taking
I'm not
that
saying I'm
name,
racist. I'm just saying
it's a constant reminder of who I am and what my
puppet
potentials
master,
are.
But a racist
There
spin
you go.
on it would be fucking hilarious.
Satanism is a religion established by Anton LaVey in
Bro, like, look at his
1966,
ears
in
too.
which
What's
the
with all these people with the
mythological character
fucking
of Satan
weird-looking ears and
is
shit?
embraced as a symbol for our beliefs about the nature of the
They all
universe
look like
and
fucking
how we live our
elves.
life in it. Our religion explicitly
Look, his
encourages
ears connect
indulgence
too.
in the
Like,
pleasures
there's
of
no
life
thing there.
and in man's true animalistic nature. Since
He's
this
got,
is
like, the
the
Nick
opposite
Carter
view
fucking
from
haircut
Christianity,
from
Islam, and
1998.
Judaism, the figure of Satan is the perfect symbol for our religion.
El satanismo es
Is
una
that
filosofía
Pedro?
para los
Pedro
opositores
grew
de
up
la
and smoked
tiranía
meth.
religiosa. Elegimos a Satanás como nuestro arquetipo personal porque somos los
Pedro.
adversarios del dogma
Pre-med.
opresivo. No creemos
And
en lo
Satan
sobrenatural.
bring you pre-med.
No adoramos a
That's what
Satanás
Pedro.
o ningún otro personaje ficticio. No nos arrodillamos o oramos a nada. Somos los dioses de nuestro universo. Somos los creadores de nuestro propio paraíso.
You know what's crazy though? I can't believe that I found the satanic, Masonic section of the cemetery that my grandma and my great-grandparents, my auntie are all buried at, and my great-grandfather was a Freemason.
Tonight, satanic symbols pop up
It's like
following
Satanism
Easter
signs
Sunday. The
everywhere.
graffiti found on Milwaukee's north side. Our Angelica Sanchez is
No
live
wonder
with
my
the neighbors
family's cursed.
frustrated by what was left behind on garages and garbage cans in the area.
Are you gonna talk, bitch?
Ted, neighbors were so alarmed
Jesus.
by this, they are
That
now
was,
hoping
like,
for
so
a neighborhood
long.
watch.
People are over here vandalizing neighbors, property. It's all over
Ooh, I like her
garages
hair.
in black ink.
Kentura Edwards says she's lived near
That looks nice
47th
on her.
and Chambers in Milwaukee for the last 5 years. While holding her baby girl, she tells us of the satanic images her neighbors woke up to following Easter Sunday.
We have a neighbor that came out and was showing us what he saw. We walked the alley.
Garages, garbage cans, and even piles of garbage were spray painted with symbols offensive to Christian-based religions.
666, that's the mark of the beast to me.
For example, upside-down crosses, the satanic number
Guarantee
666,
those were born
God is
teenagers.
expletive, this planet is hell, and given recent events, the most troubling is the message, burn all churches.
We never had
don't
this
go
in our
around
neighborhood.
doing that.
Edwards
Those are
suspects the
bored
demonic
teenagers
pictures popped up
who
sometime in the
probably
late
listen to
hours of
heavy
the
metal and
holiday
are like,
when
"Hey,
people were indoors.
Satanism
She's planning
shit
on
scares
contacting
Christians.
police
Let's
and
go
alerting
scare
the
some
city to the
Christians 'cause we have
graffiti.
nothing better
Nothing's
to
going
do,
on
so
over here. It's
except
just,
smoke pot and
a lot of
spray
family-owned
paint
homes
shit on
over here.
stuff.
So, yeah, for this
Hey,
to happen,
I hung out with people
it needs,
like that
it
in
needs
high
some
school.
attention.
She wonders if hate groups are behind the vandalism.
No, it's
She's
bored
among many
teenagers.
neighbors left outraged and upset.
Your neighborhood watch or something needs to be done in this neighborhood since this is going on now.
We have been informed that the best way to stop graffiti is to report it right away. Live outside City Hall, I'm Angelica Sanchez, Fox 6 News.
Angelica, thank you. A homicide suspect.
Good
Always
evening.
with the homicide
I
in
am
Milwaukee.
Alexandra James. We're up over 200% this
And
year.
we are Twin Temple.
And they just cut the police.
We would like to
because that's what we
personally
need.
warn you that Satan herself will be bringing
That's
us
Satan right
and our
there, is
satanic
cutting the
duo band
police
to
while
Europe,
murders up
January
200%
23rd through February 15th. Our
Satan
shocking black
is in
mass is
everybody.
not for the faint of
It has
heart.
the potential to
It
be in
contains
everybody.
many blasphemous themes such as
Doing the Watusi and Lucy,
blood,
velvet capes.
I don't know what the
Xing the
fuck this
patriarch.
was. I found this. I was like, I don't know what this shit is.
Human
But it's
skull.
interesting. I'm gonna put it on here.
and of course, the golden orbs. Won't you reserve your place in our ritual?
Your goat group
We
on
hope
Facebook.
that you will
like, I
join
report whose goat's head was cut off
Hail
and taken
Satan.
on 10 out of 1 on the full moon. Another full moon coming on Halloween. Yeah, see, shit like that is Satanism.
And tonight
But
there's controversy
graffitiing
over
on
an upcoming
garages,
event at the
that's
Civic
bored
Center.
teenagers.
A Metro church will hold the first
Or teenagers
public
aren't, like, cutting
satanic
heads off
ritual
of fucking
ever.
goats.
New at 10, Eyewitness News 5's Carla Wade has been busy tonight, and she has the details.
See, that's why Owen has all the goats and shit.
Because generally the unknown spreads fear. We're not trying to scare anybody or anything else.
For most Christians, Satanism is an unknown they would prefer not to explore. And despite acknowledging the presence of evil in the world.
Yes, Satan is alive and he's at work, and this is
evidence of that.
They have no idea what Satanists do, who they are, and what would lead the son of a Christian minister like James Hale down what Satanists call the left-hand path.
I personally found the Satanic Bible whenever I was 8 years old in a public library. Read it there. They wouldn't let me check it out. And it made sense to me.
Now, Hale says it makes sense to introduce those on the right-hand path
See,
to
that's,
Satanism.
like I said, I read it when I was like
place.
14, 15, something
Want
like
to
that.
educate the public, that's fine.
And it
but
made
we
sense to
believe
me. I
they should
haven't
know
read it
something about
since.
what they're
So I'm gonna read it
educating
again
them about.
someday.
Minister Jeremy Stowe is
See
not
what it's
surprised
about.
Hale wants to spread his message. He does too.
It actually is, for me, an opportunity as a pastor here in Oklahoma City to also shine the light of Jesus Christ like we're called to do.
But he won't be telling his congregation to attend.
Would not encourage. It's not something I would stand in the pulpit and say, hey, you should go to this event. It's going to be really exciting and neat.
Carla Wade, Eyewitness News 5.
And this story has a lot of you talking. Jared says money talks and the Bible is out the door. What a sad day for OKC. Gail agrees. She writes, what is the world coming to? First, we have a president who will allow a mosque near Ground Zero, and now Satanism in OKC not far from the Murrah building. We're still talking about it on Facebook. You can log on and tell us what you think.
But the view that today's suburban witches are the direct descendants of the witches who perished here and in Europe during the great witch persecutions is disputed by Keith Thomas, the historian and author of Religion and the Decline of Magic, who blames it all on a Scottish lady anthropologist, Miss Margaret Murray.
I can say in all candor that there is no basis for that view, but her views have been very influential, and they can be found in debased form on every station bookstall in the land. And so these suburban ladies and gentlemen who are acting out these fantasies are no doubt getting a good deal of healthy exercise, but I don't think they've got anything at all to do with the witches of the 16th and 17th century.
This is the Church of Satan at San Francisco, where Anton LaVey, the high priest, says live is evil spelt backwards. He therefore reverses everything in the gospel. Hate your enemies, he says, and if someone smites you, smash him.
Hail Satan! Hail Satan! I am a circle on whose hands stand the 12 kingdoms. 6 on the seats of living breath, the rest are as sharp sickles or the horns of death.
The actress, Jane Mansfield, was a participant in the rituals of this church. When she tried to break away, she met a violent death in a car crash soon afterwards. Many believed that the accident was controlled by LaVey's psychic power.
The old religion isn't always so colorful. Someone has painted his house black in California Street, San Francisco. Behind this funereal facade dwells Anton LaVey. Anton claims that he is the high priest of Satan, and that in him, Lord Lucifer has been holding temporal sway upon the earth these 4 years past. And most of us will agree. This young couple are not just paying a social call upon the god of the thundering hoofs, they want Satan to marry them. They are obviously anxious to start off on the right foot, for if they are to believe the evidence around them, marriages are made in hell.
The Church of Satan was formed April 30th, 1966, which is now considered the year 1 of the Satanic Age. The primary creed of the Church of Satan is to indulge in whatever one can in life and to abstain not, as we feel that indulgence is the prime motivation of human beings and of all animals. Church of Satan is the first organized religion of its kind in the history of the world. We believe in life everlasting, world without end. We have nothing to do with prophets of doom or the masochists and the people in the world that thrive on misery. We prepare ourselves for each succeeding day of life and we live it to the fullest. We do not study death. We feel that only by studying life can one escape death.
Church of Owen, main Satan.
While the bridegroom waits expectantly outside, Satan altruistically puts heart and soul into removing all traces of the honor of the bride. Here, he doesn't deal through intermediaries. He gives the whole show his personal attention. Mise-en-scène follows the pattern we know. The altar, a naked woman attended by a clutch of bosomy acolytes.
In the name of Satan, the ruler of the earth, the king of the world, command the forces of darkness to bestow their Mammon, Melech, Typhon, Moloch, Seth, Loki, Short.
Yeah, it is creepy. You missed the Devil Went Down to Jamaica song, but there's another fun song coming up. Stick around, man. Dude, that's Semper meme. Semper sent Bob's and Vagine reloaded meme. That was so funny. I did that shit today.
I am become the monstrous machine of annihilation, the festering fragments of the body of he who would be paid. It repenteth me not that my summons so cry upon the blasting winds which multiply the sting of my bitterness. And great black
I think what makes this shit even creepier too is how old the film is and like how dark it looks, faded.
Go ye, cursed, in the name of Satan. This marriage carries with it the seal of hellfire. As it was in the beginning, is now, and ever shall be, hell without end.
fucked up. That's fucked up, yeah. Ah, shit. Go back.
For believers, the battle with the devil comes in many forms and it's waged on many front lines. We've seen the harrowing journeys of exorcism and deliverance ministry. We've taken a deeper look at the Amityville Horror. Now, did the devil make you do it? Can an obsession with Satan wreck lives and drive people to kill? It was a gruesome crime. 15-year-old Elise Paler was lured into a grove of eucalyptus trees by 3 teenage boys in 1995. They bound her neck with a belt, stabbed her repeatedly, and then raped her. Her body might never have been found if one of them, Royce Casey, hadn't come forward. He said she was a blonde-haired, blue-eyed virgin, and they were offering her as a sacrifice to the devil. The boys were part of a death metal band and thought that Satan could make their music better. Casey said it was an idea they'd gotten from Altar of Sacrifice, a song by the heavy metal band Slayer.
Now all the hippies dispersed.
Paler's parents filed suit against the band, trying to hold them partially responsible for their daughter's murder, a suit that was eventually thrown out. But for many believers, heavy metal remains inextricably tied to the devil, a kind of doorway or portal, like Ouija boards, witchcraft, or other occult practices that can invite the forces of darkness into a person's life. Dave Mustaine is one of the gods of metal, a founding member of Metallica and the founder and frontman for Megadeth. He says he has no doubt about the devil.
The greatest lie he's ever told was convincing people he doesn't exist. And you know, you see people, they think that he's like red. He's got a goatee and a pointy tail and stuff like that. He doesn't. He's very beautiful. He's an angel. Why would he look like some monster? He's capable of looking just like you. He could be in this room right now. We wouldn't know it.
That's a scary thought.
It's a very scary thought.
Mustaine is currently on tour in Europe with what's called the Big Four, his current and former bands, plus Anthrax and Slayer. Are people right when they say that heavy metal music is infused with the power of the devil?
In some cases, yes, but not in all cases, because you've got great heavy metal bands that believe in God and glorify Him. We pray every night before we go on stage.
That sounds great.
For a 50-year-old,
You happy with it?
50-year-old man, it feels pretty damn good.
He shows me a chord progression called the tritone, also known as the Devil's Interval.
The Devil's Tritone is made up of these 3 notes, and this note right here
used so frequently in death metal. Mustaine says he is a Christian now, but wasn't always.
My mom was a Jehovah's Witness. I was brought up as a witness, and I revolted into the witchcraft because I hated going out and knocking on people's doors.
Yes, witchcraft. As a teenager, Mustaine says, he cast 2 hexes. The first was on a bully who sucker punched him.
From what I heard, he got in a car accident, and something happened to part of his body that I had targeted in the hex, and that showed me that it was real.
The second was on a girl he was in a class with.
Everybody wanted her, including me. but she was so out of my batting average and just totally out of my league. And I did it, and the next day she was in my apartment.
You were convinced that these hexes, spells that you were casting.
Yeah, but how many times do people?
I was,
cast
and
these
I do
hexes
believe in the
and they
dark
don't
side.
work?
Most people think that, you know, black magic and witchcraft and stuff like that isn't real or it doesn't work, and I know that it works.
Mustaine's fascination with the occult continued into his adulthood.
I was doing a lot of blood packs with people. This is before we found out about AIDS. It was real simple stuff where you cut your thumb and you rub it with somebody else and become blood brothers. I don't want to make a spiritual covenant and mixing my life with somebody else who I don't know who they are or how they are. The Bible said that blood is life.
And like so many people we have met, Mustaine believes that he opened the door to demonic forces, which had a profound impact on his life. Was your abuse of alcohol related to the satanic influences that you'd been dabbling in?
I'll say this. Every time I drank, I did not always do activities that were satanic, but any time I had been doing anything that was satanic, I had been drinking.
So
Does that make sense?
Yes, it does. There was a relationship then.
Absolutely.
There are some songs Mustaine will no longer sing. Like Megadeth's cover of the Sex Pistols' Anarchy in the UK. And he says he believes he's better for it.
I think that I'm more dangerous now that I've become a Christian than I ever was before when I was trying to go the opposite route, because I'm armed with the truth now.
It's so funny.
These men come down here from New York and from Florida to find out my reasons on rock and roll music and why I preach against it, and I believe with all of my heart that it is a contributing factor to our juvenile delinquency of today. I 100% believe it. Why I believe that is because I know how it feels when you sing it. I know what it does to you. And I know the evil feeling that you feel when you sing it. I know the lost position that you get into in the beat. Well, if you talk to the average teenager of today and you ask them what it is about rock and roll music that they like, and the first thing they'll say is the beat, the beat, the beat.
I'm going to fast forward now, and you can kind of get a feel for the song. Very mellow, you know, almost pretty. Very interesting guitar.
I noticed one little phrase here, because you know sometimes words have two meanings.
Right.
That's in the second verse there. That really caught my
and I
attention.
think, you know, we've proved that tonight. Revolution number 9 says turn me on dead man backwards. Two meanings. Other pieces in here, there's a feeling I get when I look to the west. And in medieval times, the west was the direction of hell, because that's where the sun died, in the west. Sun was born in the east, that was the direction of heaven. There's a feeling I get when I look to the west, and my spirit is crying for leaving. And I'll read the last verse for you, because it's very interesting. It says, and as we wind on down the road, our shadow's taller than our soul. There walks a lady we all know, who shines white light and wants to show how everything still turns to gold. And if you listen very hard, the tune will come to you at last, when all are one and one is all, to be a rock and not to roll. If you listen to the tune,
all right, now you're going to play this backwards.
Right. To get critics even, you know, or the skeptics, to show them what I'm going to do, I've actually taken the exact piece of tape that you just heard it off of, and I've reverse thread the machine, and I'm going to play that exact piece of tape backwards now. Okay, just to...
that you've not doctored
I have not doctored it in any way. All right, let's go ahead and start. Okay.
I heard something there.
All right, listen for I Live with Satan, exactly. You might want to turn it up just a little out here on the floor. I live with Satan, listen again. Okay.
As I live with
How
Satan.
many in the audience heard that? All right.
Now let's get that vote on videotape here. How many actually heard that? All right.
All right, let's go on. All right, Try another piece. This is something I found the other day. See if you hear the Lord turn me off. Okay.
The Lord. The audience is voting here. They're hearing it.
Let's go on.
It's crazy. How did they find us? Dude, they just like play all songs backwards.
All right. Try that for you. Slow it down. See if you hear there's no escaping it.
There's no escaping it.
That is actually, and it makes me wonder. When he says, and it makes me wonder, backwards is translated into there's no escaping it. Try it one more time.
Did y'all hear that?
All right, we'll go on. You'll hear, here's to my sweet Satan. You'll hear some words, which I could take time to tell you what they are, but I won't. And then you'll hear there's power in Satan. And let's just go on.
Where you can just sit there and listen to songs.
There's power in Satan.
One more time. Yeah. And, you know, again, I can't explain this. I don't know why it's saying that. Let's go on. All right, I'll end it there. I think that gives you an idea of what's on that tape. There's other pieces on further that says they've got to live for Satan. Basic. And all kinds of pieces on there.
All right.
Why is there the common denominator, is my question.
Paul Jr. and I were talking about this just...
That's what we are.
How you slice it, it's not the heavy metal bands like Black Sabbath and Kiss that are losing money in the current record industry depression. In fact, some new groups seem to be picking up that satanic smell of success and following along in its path.
The Lords of the New Church can be taken obviously a variety of ways in terms of the title and what it might imply and what their name is. First of all, I question how many of these bands truly have a satanic motive, you know, and I think that what goes on with anything is that once the issue is brought up, people tend to try to look for those things and they'll try to place it and they'll say, aha, I see that that's implying some sort of a religious or satanic overtone.
I think that within the rock music field, you've got people who really are into the occult and into Satan. And then you've got some who probably are playing games. But no matter how you cut it, they're propagating Satan. They're propagating the demonic line, the occultic world. And I think it's a devastating thing on our culture.
I don't think there's anything evil about it. I don't want to, you know, grow up and be some devil worshiper because I've only believed in music all my life.
As far as any message from Satan or the forces of evil are concerned, it's funny. I find it very amusing.
Is this a ridiculous notion, or is Satan rampant in rock? To some, the answer is obvious. Skull-headed monsters and demon-like figures are probably the most blatant. Then there is the upside-down cross, depicting a mockery of Jesus Christ. There is, of course, the sign of Satan. And there is the number 666, also known as the mark of the beast, the symbol belonging to the Antichrist, who, the Bible tells us, is Satan.
It's almost cute. It's almost in to be satanic. And I think that speaks of the culture abandoning its Christian roots.
But in May of 1982, teenagers of a congregation in Topeka, Kansas, destroyed thousands of dollars worth of records and tapes, which they felt contained the message of Satan. The Christian concern sheds light on a more secular aspect of music listening. It's what you don't hear. Government investigation has found subliminal messages on certain albums when played in reverse. A bill now before Congress would require warning labels on those records containing backward masking.
And that way, young people that don't want this kind of material, whether it's political messages that Reagan is a great guy, or whether it has anything to do with Satan or Charlie Chan, they're not going to have to listen to it. Parents who go out to buy their kids the teeny boppers record albums during the Christmas period, they will see the warning label.
What I've done here is queued up this song. It's called Fire on High from the ELO Face the Music album. Yeah. And I wouldn't have known about it. I mean, I've played this record a million times, and I've heard that, you know what tape sounds like when it's running backwards. I've heard that there's something in here backwards, but I've never felt moved to put it on tape and run it backwards and see what it says. Well, it's real easy, this particular record, to just take your hand and go like this, and we'll hear what it says.
The music is reversible, but time. Turn back. Turn back.
The music is reversible, but time.
Turn back. Turn back.
What does that mean?
I think it's a gimmick. I mean, it's not, it doesn't seem too diabolical to me. I think it's just a gimmick.
Gimmick? Maybe. Let's take a closer look at what some bands are really doing. You're listening to the #1 requested song of the last 10 years. A familiar song. Some believe it deserves a warning label. Why? Listen to the song backwards. It's called Stairway to Heaven.
I think just the very fact that this has gotten some attention may cause record groups to say, hey, rather than get hassled by the feds, let's do all this rotten satanic stuff forward.
People say it's Satanism. You can say we're a religion because when you have 5,000 kids all believing in this band, that is a religion.
It is Satan carrying us further and further and further all the time. It's, you know, it's selling your soul.
Nobody's going to stop us. We're going straight to the top. We're red hot.
Oh, here we go. Here's a little music break. Please don't think this is a joke. You are here due to the joke. You are weak, I can tell. You'll spend eternity here in hell. Don't mistake this for a dream. The soul forbid will make you scream. Here in hell, we know your needs. Upon this earth, I'll sow my seeds. Let's forget what you think you saw. I am now above the law. Politicians do my deed to legalize my devil's weed. I hope y'all enjoyed that music. It was made by whoever this person is, Dan Sindel. I like randomly found that shit. I think I gotta add that.
It began as a cult phenomenon, then it caught on. Now a new game is sweeping the country.
You will burn forever and ever in eternal torment. You are no more.
The role-playing game Dungeons & Dragons debuted in 1974. It became a hit with many adolescents, but critics claimed it was an invitation to devil worship.
The witchcraft, the demonism, the spells.
And worse.
It is not fun and games.
The media set off a satanic panic.
A lot of adults who think it's been connected to a number of suicides and murders.
That connection has been largely debunked.
It's nothing but a witch hunt.
And the game has generated an unexpected legacy.
This was a revolution.
On a summer day in August 1979, the family of a missing teenager called a Texas investigator named William Deere with some startling information.
Dallas Egbert had disappeared from Michigan State University during the summer session.
James Dallas Egbert III was a 16-year-old sophomore, and his family hired Deere to help find him.
He was a computer nerd, and he had a large amount of hair and carried his little briefcase. I wasn't sure that I was being told exactly what precipitated his disappearance, so I said, well, I guess the best thing we can do is I'll go to Michigan State University and I'll find out for myself exactly what was going on.
What he found when he went to Egbert's dorm room was a shelf of neatly stacked books and something else.
There was a cork board with a series of tacks.
These dudes are used to
In
work
what might look like a random pattern of thumbtacks, the investigator saw what he thought could be a clue. The shape resembled a building that was part of a network of underground campus steam tunnels, which students told him they sometimes explored.
We set out with maps, and we started going into the tunnels one morning with press everywhere. I entered with the idea that I did not know what I was getting into.
But he had a hunch that it had something to do with a game that was growing in popularity.
This is a quest in a fantasy world of castles and dungeons, monsters and dragons. This world has become real to these people. It's all part of a game called Dungeons and Dragons.
Dungeons and Dragons, also known as D&D, was created by the late Gary Gygax and Dave Arneson in the early 1970s. It was born out of their love for military war games, and they devised scenarios with made-up characters that incorporated their interest in history and fantasy fiction. Gygax said it provided an escape.
All of us at times feel a little inadequate in dealing with the modern world. It would feel much better if we knew that we were a superhero or a mighty wizard.
The game is played in a group, and the guide, or dungeon master,
you enter a very small room,
talks the players through the fictional, sometimes violent adventures they will go on.
And each has an elaborate scoring sheet for his character, with points for wisdom and strength and the like. A throw of these special dice decide the outcome of battles in an intricate scoring system. Nothing is acted out. The real action is in the mind.
Now you guys are entering the castle.
But some, including Deere, worried that while the action was imaginary, some kids might take it too far.
You're leaving the world of reality into the world of fantasy. It advocated murder, decapitation. And I'm going, this isn't a healthy game. How can it be a healthy game?
That game, and Deere's hunch that Egbert was playing it in the tunnels, made great fodder for headlines, but it was a dead end, and Deere went back to Texas empty-handed.
It wasn't within a day or two that the phone call came in. And I was told where I could find him.
I don't want to be in any games with Casey. I'm good.
So we flew out, and I'm trying to remember his exact words, but he couldn't really say a lot. And I left it like that.
Egbert was a complicated teenager whose disappearance was never fully explained and who later committed suicide.
There was speculation he was the victim of a campus game called Dungeons and Dragons, but after a month-long nationwide search, he was found unharmed.
Deere fed into the growing suspicions about D&D in a book that pointed to the game as a culprit in Egbert's disappearance. But Tim Kask, who helped develop D&D with Gary Gygax, says Deere was just hyping the story for personal gain.
He was a publicity hound, and he knew that he could hang it on D&D and gather a lot of media frenzy, and he did. Dallas Egbert is a tragic story. Brilliant young man, sent off to university at 15. It had nothing to do with D&D and the steam tunnels.
Still, that attention set off an unexpected chain of events.
Our stock took off, literally. We sold thousands and more copies within 90 days of all that stuff happening, and we were up in print runs. That's when we took off.
When I can't hear it.
Sales nearly quadrupled the year after Egbert disappeared. As the cult game was going mainstream, Dungeons & Dragons generated interest in two conflicting groups: people who wanted to buy it and those who wanted to ban it. And televangelists took on a new crusade.
They are kids like yours, like the ones in your neighborhood. Kids who are turning to darkness because society has shut God out.
Conservative fundamentalist Christian group would see a game that involved satanic figures, evil figures. That would be a source of concern.
Dungeons & Dragons has been called the most effective introduction to the occult in the history of man. It is a fantasy role-playing game that teaches demonology, witchcraft.
Gygax, a religious man himself, was put on the defensive. The company hired psychologist Dr. Joyce Brothers to fend off criticism.
There is good and evil in life, and the way Dungeons & Dragons is set up is that good triumphs over evil.
Tim Kask says that in private, he and Gygax couldn't believe the game was being linked to devil worship.
Without sounding disrespectful at all, we laughed our butts off most of the time. Because it was like, are you kidding me? You really think we're teaching your children demonology?
But the controversy grew after the news media reported that a string of teen murders and suicides had one thing in common. The killers or victims were D&D players.
Mary Towie was killed by two friends, Ron Adcox and Darren Molitor. The crucial point is, can a game create psychosis? Or is someone like Darren Molitor an accident waiting to happen, with or without the game?
If you found 12 kids in murder-suicide with one connecting factor in each of them, wouldn't you question it? And that's all people do.
I would certainly do it in a scientific manner, and this is as unscientific as you can get. It's nothing but a witch hunt.
But many grieving parents believed there was a connection. Pat Pulling's teenage son committed suicide, and she spoke publicly, claiming that his game playing contributed to his death.
These children not only begin to have violent dreams or violent thoughts or negative, depressing type things, they become very much a part of this character.
Young people commit suicide for a whole variety of reasons.
You hear that? You better watch out. I'm going to seriously become Dr. Anal Hook
towards depression or suicide.
Northwestern University professor of sociology, Gary Allen Fine, wrote a book called Shared Fantasy and studied the D&D subculture.
They were the kind of kids and young people who didn't go to dances or date on the weekends. It was part of a nerd culture, I guess you would say.
I can still throw death spells, huh, Steve?
The D&D culture intrigued filmmakers and fiction writers. Rona Jaffe's book, Mazes and Monsters, was loosely based on what people thought had happened to Dallas Egbert. It was made into a movie starring a young Tom Hanks.
Let the journey begin. Well, which way do we go?
They went down the storm tunnels and got to play D&D in the tunnels. We had to like sit around a table. Like how awesome would it have been if it turned out that D&D was like what they did?
Cory Doctorow is a writer and activist who early on was profiled as an avid D&D player in this story from 1985.
The moral panic was mostly laughable. The idea that there were people who were fundamentalist Christians for whom Dungeons & Dragons represented some kind of existential threat to my soul was silly. You could go around and have really satisfying arguments with like profoundly ignorant grown-ups.
Over time, the Dungeons & Dragons controversy lost steam. And today, the common thread between D&D players is less likely to include any reported links to violence, and more likely to involve Emmy Awards and literary prizes. Stephen Colbert and writers Ta-Nehisi Coates and Junot Diaz are among the millions of smart, bookish kids who played D&D and shrugged off any sense of panic.
People were bananas. My mom moral panicked. She was way more worried about us getting shanked, you know, or getting caught up in some nonsense.
It was a lot of fun. It also provided them a variety of other skills, leadership skills, negotiation skills.
We helped each other without even knowing it, man. I learned an enormous amount about what it meant to be courageous and what it meant to be passionate and the kind of moral, hard moral choices that one needs to make in real life in this kind of fake, sort of imagined plane of action.
And for Diaz, as a young immigrant from the Dominican Republic, the game had special meaning.
This was a revolution. Being a bunch of kids of color in a society that tells us that we are nothing, being permitted under our own power to be heroic, to have agency, to do the hero stuff, to take and be on adventures. There was nothing like it for us. It was very, 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 very impactful.
While some parents used to worry about what kids were playing, now they're more likely to be worried about how they're playing.
Cell phones and social media have revolutionized the way we live, but how has plugging in changed the way your kids are growing up?
Through the 20th century, you have this tension between free play and controlled media. I mean, that we were concerned about what sitting in darkened movie theaters would do to our children. Just wait 30 years and they will be worried about what their children are doing. And it will no doubt be something different than sexting and bullying as we know it today. This is not a new phenomenon. It just changes with each new technology.
The American Academy of Pediatrics says that in this media-saturated age, it's important for kids to use their imaginations in free play. And in a twist, the role-playing games that set off a moral panic in the past may look more like a solution than a problem to today's parents.
It's a great thing to dream yourself in other places, and it helps understand who you are. It's just nice to spend a lot of time thinking, imagining, in a group, collaborating.
Mommy is awesome.
Imagination is a good thing, man. Very powerful.
Leave the fuck alone then, dude.
This is on a Milwaukee bus.
I represent you, nigga.
Milwaukee City bus.
You want me to represent you? Leave me the fuck alone. Get your bitch ass out of my life, man. You motherfuckers ain't trying to kill me anyway. Bastard. Talking to me and shit. Where'd all this toke shit come from? Bitch. I'm representing your ass now, nigga. So I represent you? You want me to fuck with you no more? All right then, Lucy. So now you're gonna leave me out here and be what? I lost, man. I lost. What the fuck you talking about? Huh? I ain't scared of you, man. So I got this motherfucker. I hope motherfucker just said bam. Nigga.
Welcome to Milwaukee.
Representing your punk ass, man. Done, man. After tonight, we done, dude. No,
We done, dude.
no. I ain't gonna keep telling you nothing.
On the road.
I ain't gonna tell you shit. Yeah. And you the boss, nigga. You the boss. You ain't the boss no more? Alright, you trying to save somebody, ain't you? Don't save me, man. I'm gonna hang my motherfuckers out. I'm trying to save you.
Hundreds of people turned out tonight for the unveiling of a very controversial statue.
Yeah, it really is. The Satanic Temple of Detroit revealed the one-ton
Satanic.
bronze statue. Their message,
like
they say, more about
like
laws
Satan's
protecting
cocktail.
religious freedom than about Satan.
Priya Mann joins
I'll
us
be right
live.
back,
Priya, I
guys.
know there were some protesters out there this evening. Did the event remain calm?
Steve Sander, Detroit police say this was a relatively peaceful event. There were a few protesters early on that tried blocking the door so people couldn't get in to get tickets. They were told to step back, which they did. The Satan statue will be unveiled tonight at a secret location. As a small group of protesters prayed, hundreds waited for tickets to the unveiling of an 8-foot-tall bronze statue of a goat-headed Satan. Most of the people here agree with the teachings of the Satanic Temple, the group responsible for the event.
It's here, it's in Detroit, and this is fantastic that we get to experience this and we get to see this amazing statue be unveiled for all the world to see.
I'm just excited to see my Lord and Savior Baphomet represented in such glorious Italian stone. I do hope his eyes gaze upon me and that my allegiance is recognized. I don't know. Notice me, Senpai. Notice me.
Protesters took the heavy rainfall as some sort of sign and even brought their own statue of an angel crushing the devil.
Part of me wishes that angel statue would come to life, and King Baphomet would rise, and two eternal juggernauts would do battle right here in the middle of the city. But for what is this battle raging, you ask? I don't know. What stands at the center? To that I say, my soul is at the center, offered up to the ageless ones, only to be torn in twain.
The unveiling here in Detroit is historic. The Satan statue has never before been seen publicly. The Satanic Temple says the statue is a symbol for what they advocate, the separation of church and state.
It's like you can't have one without the other, you know? Like I'm equal parts God and the devil. A cloak of shame covers this man, and only supreme light will wash my body clean. But how could that light possibly reach me with the thick clouds of indecency that surround my poor soul? So I carry my wrongdoings on my back like some kind of tormented hiker, lost in the hills of misfortune, looking desperately for that peak to rescue him from the valley of depraved habitual self-pleasuring. But again, I find nothing except for sweaty, devastated loneliness and 1,000 judging eyes staring back at me from the cover of a stolen Victoria's Secret catalog. I didn't take your mail, Mrs. Pemberton. Stop asking me that. Leave me alone! Oh no?
Is that Antifa?
Satan's
yeah,
pretty
right?
cool.
They all do look like fucking Antifa.
Now,
right?
it's important to note that the Satan statue will not stay here in Detroit. The Satanic Temple wants to take the statue to Arkansas. At the state capitol there is a monument to the 10 Commandments. They want to put the statue next to it as a form of protest. So again, the Satan statue will not stay here in Detroit. Reporting live, I'm Priya Mann, Local 4.
All right, the controversy will move
It's
south.
got really cold in
Come in
here.
my backyard.
Satan's
Step
coming
inside
for
the
me.
Thunderdome.
Hope not. Y'all ready for Christmas? I should make some Christmas brew songs. What do you guys think? Some Brew City Christmas beats? That's the next big holiday coming up after October. Yeah, we gotta work on that. I gotta work on Randy's fucking song too. I started on that. I gotta finish that. Cold in Pennsylvania. Yeah, man, it was down to like probably high 40s. I had to turn my heat on yesterday. I was sticking it out like, dude, I'm not gonna turn the fucking heat on until I absolutely have to. But it was down to like 58 degrees in my house yesterday, and I'm like, fuck this. Like, I had sweatpants on, a long sleeve shirt, a hoodie, a fucking fleece blanket, and I was shivering. I'm like, no, fuck this. I'm turning the heat on. And I finally have a car where the heat works good. Like a couple years ago, I drove this piece of shit fucking car where the heat didn't work very well. Or actually, when I first bought it, it barely worked, and then it completely went out. And it gets cold as fuck in Wisconsin. It's like negative fucking 20 below and shit. So yeah, that was fun driving to work when you can't feel your fingers or your face. And the ice is on the inside of the windshield, so you scrape the outside while the blower is on the inside. And then you come in and finish scraping the inside. And then go back out and finish scraping the outside. Fucking winter's coming. God damn it. I I hate winter. Yeah, for real, man. Like, I have a space heater somewhere and I could not find it. It's got to be because I just moved here last year and I packed it and I didn't unpack it last year when I moved into this place. And I haven't found it. I was just gonna plug that in and just like have it in my living room while I was chilling, but
6 foot
couldn't find
distance
it, so I
masks are
turned
a
the heat
pagan
on.
ritual of satanic worshippers.
Tuesday, this parent lashed out at the Elmbrook School Board meeting regarding her thoughts on masks. The district also says she used, quote, defamatory speech toward a board member. That portion was edited out. 12 News has filed an open records request to obtain that portion of the meeting.
Show some respect.
Monday, a Germantown school board member got a backlash after he called teachers wimps for their concerns about going back to class.
Get the students back in school 5 days a week.
I don't know if y'all caught the beginning. She said it was satanic to make them wear masks.
We're not a bunch of wimps. It can be done.
Tonight, the Oak Creek Franklin School Board will meet, and they've already let parents know that during the public comments, any personal attacks
goddamn kids go back to
tolerated.
school. It is
You're not
pissing me off. We were
surprised to see
supposed to
this type of
fucking go back to school this week.
No.
We asked Marquette
And
University
they gave us
Associate
fucking email
Psychology
last
Professor
week and said,
Nikia
"No."
Gordon, what's fueling the fire?
Because 7 people in the city have fucking COVID.
Answer is from the school board, depending
7.
on whether you feel like that violates your ability to
Okay,
engage in
I'm
the world the
fucking
way
mad
you
at this shit.
Closer to home, we're getting a look at the weapons that 2
I'm
Barcelona
sorry.
middle schoolers allegedly plan to use to kill their classmates and then eat their flesh. And the plan thwarted thanks to a robocall. ABC Action News reporter Melissa Mahadeo is live for us tonight in Bartow. Melissa, parents are horrified and concerned at this one.
Yeah, very much so. We spoke with several parents who either picked their kids up early or just plain let them stay home today after hearing those details of a plan that police say an 11 and 12-year-old admitted to making. A butcher knife, a cutter, scissors. These are some of the weapons an 11 and 12-year-old brought to Bartow Middle School on Tuesday to allegedly kill classmates.
They wanted to kill at least 15 people and were waiting in the bathroom for the opportunity to find smaller kids that they could overpower to be their victims.
Extra officers were already on campus after another student reported concerns on Monday. But police tell us the plot was foiled only after one of the girl's mother called in when a robocall said she skipped school.
This is horrific, and if I had children in school, I'd be scared and slapped to death.
Officers found them in the bathroom with a goblet on hand to reportedly drink their victim's blood.
I mean, how can this happen, you know? We're afraid, and she's afraid.
Kind of feel like maybe it might be a good idea just for some of these schools to maybe even put in metal detectors.
Messages appear to show the girls planned the murders and even to kill themselves when it was done.
I'm going to call them small children, only 11 and 12. Seriously sat down and plotted to do serious bodily harm to another student at school.
And police also tell us that the girls admitted to being devil worshippers. Now they are facing several charges here, including the conspiracy to commit murder. Right now, reporting in Bartow, I'm Melissa Mahadeo, ABC Action News.
Well, it's an event that's created a lot of buzz among local churches and Christian groups. The largest public satanic ceremony in history happening right here in Detroit. 7 Action News reporter Jane Park is live with us tonight. Jane, organizers went to great lengths to keep this a private, exclusive party. What's up?
They really did, Dave. Now, we are standing along Grand River, and the building behind me was where guests originally came, but shortly after they were let in, they were told to go to a second undisclosed location where we're to believe that party is going on right now. The Satanic Temple made it very clear it would be their members and their guests and not our cameras that will be getting a first look at this much talked about statue. The lines ran along the graffitied walls, at least 100 people eagerly waiting for what's been kept well under wraps.
It said dress like an animal or wear horns and tails.
Some drove in from as far as upstate New York to see the Satanic Temple unveil a 9-foot-tall bronze statue of a goat-headed Satan.
it just seemed like it would be a historic event.
The guests came dressed to impress. Each paid at least $25 for a ticket. Security inside was tight. No cameras or media allowed in. No cell phones and photographs allowed. The secretive nature of the event didn't prevent a few protesters from attending.
We figured, well, if they're going to unveil a statue and show a statue, well, we're going to show the statue that beat this statue behind the scenes in reality. It's recounted in the St. John's Apocalypse that St. Michael and his angels defeated Lucifer and his angels.
Members of the Satanic Temple, who say they stand for the separation of church and state, kept mum Saturday night, focused instead on showing their guests a good time. Some came out of curiosity, others just to appreciate the art. And they say don't knock it just because it's not your taste.
A sculpture or a piece of art or a tribute to something that they don't understand is not necessarily going to impact their religion or their beliefs.
There was so much buzz about the night, Detroit police set up outside just to make sure the Satanists and the naysayers stayed civil.
We support anyone's First Amendment right to practice whatever religion they want or to come out and protest against that, their freedom of speech. So, we're there basically to protect the rights of everyone involved.
In the end, the group made good on its promise to make this an exclusive event. Guests patient enough to make it through the line were promptly sent out the back door where outsiders can only imagine the real party awaits. The party, we're told, is supposed to last well beyond midnight. As for the statue, it could end up at the Arkansas State Capitol, where there is a Ten Commandments statue also planned. Live near downtown Detroit, Jane Park, 7 Action News.
Armand Simmons for the Los Angeles Times. He terrorized Southern California in the mid-1980s, breaking into people's homes, murdering some, sexually assaulting others. Richard Ramirez, dubbed the Night Stalker, died today at Marin General Hospital. He had been on death row at San Quentin State Prison since being convicted in 1989 of 13 murders, 5 attempted murders, 11 sexual assaults and 14 burglaries. Ramirez was 53. Prison officials said he died of natural causes. The Times' Paul Feldman covered the preliminary hearing in the Ramirez case, and he joins me today to talk about the events that gripped California almost 30 years ago. Welcome, Paul. So, Paul, tell us first of all, who was Richard Ramirez?
Well, at the time of the first court hearings, almost every news story described him as the 26-year-old drifter from El Paso. He grew up in Texas, tall, lanky guy, mid-20s when the crime spree happened. He moved to Los Angeles about maybe 3 or 4 years before the crimes happened. And during the period in 1985 of the crime spree, he instilled a level of fear in people in California that probably hadn't been seen since the Manson murders in the late 1960s.
13 murders. How was he able to carry out these heinous crimes? What was his modus operandi?
Basically, he just showed up at different houses or just cased different neighborhoods and went into houses, often that in the middle of the night, and often houses where doors were left unlocked or windows were left open, and killed some people, assaulted others, and at times left marks, satanic marks, in the homes that he had invaded.
So there was some talk about devil worship then, was that it?
Well, he talked a bunch about that in different forums. I think at his first hearing after his arrest, one of the very first hearings, as he was led off, he yelled out, "Hail Satan." I think his jail cell had pentagrams and other satanic type symbols in it, and that was part of his whole shtick.
You mentioned the fear in the city. What was the atmosphere like here? Were people paralyzed? Did they adopt a kind of bunker mentality? What was it like?
Well, people, as I recall, and being one of them at the time, having recently moved to California,
keep thinking of here.
Had this issue in the front of my mind each night. I mean, it was just the sheer randomness of these acts. He killed people young, he killed people old, he killed women, he killed men, and it was just all over the city, just the complete randomness of the acts and the luridness, it just led to a level of fear that, as I say, probably wasn't around for a 15-year period before.
I can imagine that the city and the county kind of breathed a collective sigh of relief. How was he eventually captured?
Well, he apparently was trying to either carjack a car or somehow get a hold of a car in East LA, and he was accosted, or he was basically stopped by a bunch of neighborhood residents with the police then in tow. He was arrested in 1985. The preliminary hearing, which took several weeks, occurred in early 1986. He was finally found guilty of the crimes in 1989, I believe, and has been sitting on death row since then up at San Quentin. The case was actually not held in the main courthouses. It was held over at the traffic courthouse down a few blocks from here to just sort of isolate it from the rest of the court system. I guess it was a pre-OJ type OJ case.
Thank you, Paul. For more on this story about the Night Stalker, please visit latimes.com.
We're discussing Satanism and the occult this morning and some of the dangers that are lurking about. And with me in the studio is the Dark Lord Blood, who is a 7th-generation satanic worshiper. I mean, are all your friends Satanists?
No, I don't have any friends, but my acquaintances are, yeah.
Uh-huh.
For the purposes of this study, we will focus on the number 666 and its use in the Universal Product Code.
Most people don't realize that 80% of all toys on the market have occultic influence, and these are the most popular.
It says here that it actually makes the wings move, so let me, look at that. Isn't that amazing?
And do you remember those verses in the book of Revelation about the flying beast with the riders on them?
This could actually be taken from Revelations.
Sure, it looks like it.
I dealt with a boy, to abbreviate it, who wanted to kill me. The name of the demon that was inside the young man was named Azrael. I later found out that Azrael was Lucifer's personal death angel. Not only that, but I also found out that that was the same name as the cat on the Smurfs. And what is his primary objective? Is to catch little Smurfs and kill them for Gargamel.
And this kind of knife is being sold for that reason. There's something called an FDM. But it's also being sold for healthy use. Man, what's healthy about selling a knife that's a bit...
Vicky!
Snake Mountain. It's got an interesting little feature here. I'm going to turn it on. It can actually transform your
like
voice
toys,
from your regular voice to that of an occultic hero. Is that correct? So let's get a Skeletor type of voice.
Aviation? It's about time. Show up.
Let me
House of
turn
Horrors,
this on here. I think I'm getting it too loud. Skeletor, the master of the universe.
Right, this morning, Houston police providing an update on 2 young men accused of murdering a teenager as part of a satanic ritual.
Channel 2's Anusha Rasta joins us live from downtown with the latest developments in this case. Anusha?
That's right. Well, the Houston Police Department, the FBI, and DPS are now all investigating this case and a connection between the MS-13 gang and the victim in this case. Now take a look at these 2 pictures. These are the 2 men the Houston Police Department believe are MS-13 gang members responsible for killing a 15-year-old girl execution style in a satanic ritual and then leaving her body in a ditch. This morning, Houston police told us they think they now know the identity of the girl, but they are not releasing that information to the public at this time. Investigators say her accused killers confessed to the crime after they were arrested. 22-year-old Miguel Alvarez Flores, there you see on the left, and 18-year-old Diego Hernandez Rivera on the right appeared in court this week. Now, according to HPD, most MS-13 gang members are in this country illegally, and these 2 murder suspects could be as well. Police say they have reported the 2 to Homeland Security. Now, an investigator told us this morning that officers found evidence in the apartment where these gang members were keeping underage girls that led police to believe there was some sort of satanic ritual activity happening there. Now, HPD says there were 3 underage girls in the apartment of the murder suspects, a 14-year-old, a 15-year-old who was murdered, and then a 16-year-old girl. Police say the 14-year-old told detectives She was kidnapped, drugged, and sexually assaulted by members of the MS-13 gang. Now, the 14-year-old also reportedly told investigators she was moved from one apartment to another, forced into consuming drugs and alcohol, then at one point was held down as Alvarez Flores tattooed the image of the Grim Reaper on her body from her knee down to her foot. This girl also told police the 15-year-old at the apartment was a girl named Genesis. She believes Genesis is the girl found dead on February 16th. Now, the witness also told investigators there was a satanic statue in the apartment, and the gang members said they wanted to offer the beast a soul. Police say Hernandez Rivera and Alvarez Flores killed the girl execution style.
People automatically think when they call and give us information or they want to assist in an investigation that we're going to just disseminate that information out in the street. That's not the case. People should not be scared of criminals. They should trust their police, the local police, that we're going to be there to help them.
Yeah, they're an HPD investigator urging the public to speak up, call law enforcement if you see something that appears to be strange to you or you believe that there is some sort of illegal activity that you have witnessed. Now, the two murder suspects are in jail. They are also facing aggravated kidnapping charges. Reporting live in downtown Houston, Anusha Rasta, KPRC Channel 2 News.
Does this look wholesome to you? This video alone could freak out parents, but the Satanic Temple is trying to reach students by getting into elementary schools nationwide. The group says it's an alternative to a Christian-based after-school program. Denver 7's Mark Boyle's been looking into this, and Mark, they say it's a kid-friendly club.
That's right. Hard to believe, but that's exactly what they preach here. And this is the parental permission slip that they're handing out so your kid can participate. Here's the After School Satan website. They even have a children's book dedicated to this. Now, they say there are some wholesome activities and lessons to be learned, but others believe it has no place around children. It could turn into one hellish extracurricular activity. That is, if the Satanic Temple has its way.
It's After School Satan, so I picture it sort of more like Girl Scouts and Boy Scouts.
Yep, you heard that right. It's called After School Satan. Amy Jensen, who graduated from DU and used to teach in Denver, has offered to sponsor the club at this Tucson school. Jensen says it's more about opening minds and less about worshiping Satan.
It's not where we sit down and we talk about Satan and we talk about religion and we talk about all of those things. Actually, those are thrown to the wayside, and they're based in science and more of cultural awareness.
We're not actually talking about Satan and Satanism because we have no interest in converting. It's just that in our religion, science and reason is what is the most valuable.
But there is obviously a lot of concern here. Some, like Liberty Counsel founder Matt Staver, say the club is nothing more than a bunch of atheists trying to fight back against Christian-based after-school programs.
This particular so-called Satanist club is not wanting to be there to express a viewpoint. They're wanting to disrupt the process.
I want to say that everybody's entitled to their beliefs. However, I feel like that's just a little odd.
Staver says he's seen pushes like this before, which have failed. The future of after-school Satan is still unclear, but the thought of it is certainly freaking a lot of people out. Now, we just received this email from Tucson schools just within the last half hour. They say they have declined the club's application. Right now, they don't have a faculty sponsor for that operation, but again, it's not slowing down the Satanic Temple from trying to get into the schools. Reporting in the newsroom, Mark Boyle, back to you guys.
You gotta have a sponsor. That can be a tough one. Despite the name, the Satanic Temple says it does not worship the devil and is an atheist group. The group uses satanic images to push their agenda for social justice and separation of church and state, they say. We know this is a story that gets you talking, so join the debate right now on our Denver 7 Facebook page.
Hello.
This is the Pazuzu Algarad you know.
How did we not know? That's what people, how did the neighbors not smell anything?
The so-called devil worshiper, addict, murderer who left the bodies of two men to rot in his backyard in Clevens.
He would eat the heart of it and then burn the flesh of the rabbit.
This is John Alexander Lawson. He and Pazuzu are different, but
looks
the
like
same
Machine Gun Kelly.
They're the same person.
Little Johnny was not right, and everybody knew it.
John Alexander Lawson was born in San Francisco, California in December of 1978. Raised primarily by his mother, Cynthia, who took pictures of her baby in the bathtub, smiling with his straight blonde hair and piercing blue eyes, dressed up like a cowboy, hat and all.
Well, he was in the Cub Scouts and I was a den leader.
Cynthia was raised in Forsyth County. Having graduated from Parkland High School, the pair moved back to North Carolina when John was 2. For years, they were a normal family. He was a normal boy, with his blue Royals jersey and bat on his knee.
And then he got into football.
In pads for the Pofftown Packers, golden locks flowing in the wind.
And he just kind of, no more sports.
Cynthia says she first noticed a change in her son when she remarried. The pair and his new stepfather, Johnny, moved into the home on Nobbville Drive in Clemens. But John and Johnny didn't always get along, and John became a recluse.
I told Johnny that I wanted to just maybe I can work with him.
The couple separated, and neighbors say that's when they started seeing John outside again.
And we had so much fun. I mean, he always made me laugh.
Where he was rarely seen was at school.
2008, when it was really obvious that he had changed.
He'd repeated 2nd grade and 9th when he dropped out.
Yeah, and that's basically because he didn't go to school. It wasn't because he failed, he just didn't go to school.
His appearance shifted. The long locks were shaved off. His dress became more gothic.
He was wanting to hang out with people that I didn't want him to hang out with.
She brought him to what was then the Reynolds Health Center on Highland Avenue, but he wasn't there long.
I think that I loved him too much, and then, you know, I said, okay, whatever you want to do.
Then he started searching for ways to change how he saw the world, with a forensic evaluation showing he started regularly consuming alcohol at age 13.
There's this one guy that was doing meth and got John into doing that, and I don't know if I just turned a blind eye or...
Soon, he further changed the way the world saw him. He legally changed his name from John Lawson to Pazuzu Algarad. Pazuzu, a demon featured in The Exorcist. Cynthia says he didn't worship the devil, instead, a dragon, as she put it, named Tiamat. Homemade tattoos on his face developed from this to this to this. He filed his teeth to points.
But that was one of the first ones he did, and you can just see the anger coming out.
In February of 2006, at the age of 27, Pazuzu went to Daymark Recovery Services. Records show he was diagnosed with agoraphobia, an anxiety disorder centered around fearing or avoiding places that might cause you to feel panic. He left after 2 months, then returned again in October of 2008. Within the next year is when Cynthia says she was in the home as Pazuzu and his spiritual wife, Amber Birch, killed Joshua Wetzler and Tommy Dean Welch.
I went back to my bedroom. I thought, what am I doing? Okay. Well, gosh, in the state he's in, he might shoot me. I don't think he would. He's had plenty of opportunities to kill me if he wanted to.
It was February 2010. Deputies had jumped the gun, coming within feet of where Josh Wetzler and Tommy Dean Welch were buried, likely walking right over them. Triad bloodhounds were unable to pick up on the scent in Pazuzu Algarad's backyard. Their first search warrant had failed.
It's not what anyone was hoping for. We had hoped that they were just didn't want to be found for a period of time, but that wasn't the case.
Pazuzu was charged with accessory after the fact to involuntary manslaughter in the death of Joseph Chandler the following October. Chandler had become the 3rd man to disappear from the Clemens area between July of 2009 and July of 2010.
So after a period of time, they back and forth with that. The credibility of that witness diminishes.
Pazuzu's self-proclaimed wife, Amber Birch, assaulted his mother, Cynthia, on September 22, 2011. While Amber was in jail, Cynthia went to the Forsyth County Sheriff's Office.
I believe what her intent was to come down here and put all that on Amber.
Cynthia told deputies that in late 2009, she'd heard a gunshot and saw Amber holding a rifle.
Amber came to the entry of the hall there.
Tommy Dean Welch was slumped over on the couch in their home.
I love her and I forgive her.
But when deputies said they needed to question Pazuzu about the murder,
that's where it stopped. So it was a classic case of a mother protecting her son.
I think that she was more a product of Pazuzu's brainwashing than anything.
When Pazuzu was released the next year following his accessory after the fact to involuntary manslaughter conviction, things calmed.
He would tell me he's never going back to jail again. He's doing much better.
2 more years went by until a couple more leads came in and led deputies to a woman named Dixie Ross in late September 2014.
All the information started coming in there at one time, and so we pieced it together, prepared the search warrant, looked at the previous search warrant.
Dixie told deputies Amber texted her to come over to the Nob Hill home in early October 2009. When she got there, Amber told her, smiling, "I just did my first." It would later prove to be Tommy Dean Welch. Dixie, now in fear, helped Amber dig a hole. Looking for an excuse to stop, Dixie said her sandals kept falling off while jumping on the shovel. Amber took her shoes off, gave them to Dixie, and then put on Tommy Dean Welch's before starting to sing, "I'm wearing a dead man's shoes," out loud, over and over. 4 days later,
he had to use self-contained breathing apparatus.
Deputies got their second search warrant for Pazuzu's home.
This went on for a matter of weeks.
After arresting Pazuzu and Amber and days of digging, collecting every shred of evidence they could, the scene was released, with deputies only going back to guard it out of fear people would go there on Halloween.
3 times this property is then sold back to the note holder.
The home was sold back to the bank.
If it ever does sell, who's going to buy a house that people were killed in?
At 8:45 in the morning on Friday, April 24th, 2015,
it just needs to be over.
the walls were torn down. As neighbors erupted in cheers, a track hoe flattened the home piece by piece. Dust, debris gathered for years floated off into the blue spring sky.
We'll probably never know what all took place in that house.
In the meantime, Pazuzu had attempted to commit suicide in the Forsyth County Detention Center. Transferred to Central Prison in Raleigh for safekeeping, where he continued to write his mother letters.
And he said, "Mom, I just can't take it anymore."
Until October 26th, 2015, when he wrote the very last one.
Please, I want to be cremated.
Sheriff's office says Pazuzu was transferred.
Todd, you have a story on your website about an art display at a university with a desecrated Bible and satanic images. Tell us about that.
Yeah, this happened at the University of Southern Maine. There was an assignment in an art class. The students had to literally take a book and turn that book into a piece of art. And so an atheist student decided to take the Holy Bible, and he actually ripped pages out of the Bible, painted them to look like flames from the lake of fire. And then he took portraits and paintings of Christ, and in place of the face of Jesus, he placed a satanic image. One of the more jarring pictures we have on the website, you can actually see the nativity scene with Mary cradling the Christ child, and there is an evil satanic face on the Christ child. The reason this has caused so much controversy, it turns out that a local Church of Christ actually rents the facility at the university where this display is located. And so you might imagine the surprise of church members when they came in and they discovered this desecrated Bible. But here's the big issue. The school, the university, is defending the desecration of the Holy Bible. They say it's all part of freedom of speech, freedom of expression, and that the student is well within his rights to not only create this display, but the university is within its rights to display the artwork.
Do you think this would be allowed if it were any other religion or religious symbol? They'd be getting the same response?
Well, I think we need to understand that here in the United States of America, only Christians and Jews are allowed to be attacked for their religious beliefs. Muslims are off limits. So I think it's highly improbable that you would see a university like the University of Southern Maine approve of a desecrated Quran, or, for example, for a student to take pictures of the Prophet Muhammad and place a satanic image on those kinds of things. I don't think the university would be hollering about free speech and freedom of expression if that were the case.
Are Christians at the school or in the area speaking out against this?
Well, there has been a lot of outrage in the Christian community over this. Again, the issue here is not the student creating the artwork. The student has every right to make whatever he wants to make. The issue is, does the university, which is paid for by tax dollars, does it have a responsibility to display this artwork? That seems to be the big question here. And a lot of people are very upset. A lot of taxpayers, Christian taxpayers, are very upset. Their money is being used to promote an art display that desecrates the Holy Bible.
Yeah, but
What
the
are your thoughts on
assignment
how
wasn't
Christians should
to
respond to
strictly
things like
focus on religion. The fucking student
There's
chose
only
to.
one way to send a message to universities like the University of Southern Maine and any other school that attacks Jewish or Christian students, and that's money. So the issue here is not protesting and having marches. I really don't think those work. But what does work? Donors who call that university and say, you know what, not a single penny until you take down that desecrated art display. That's really how we're going to facilitate change here.
You're going to meet a man who describes himself as a sort of pope of Satanism. He is deliberately and gleefully blasphemous, and he seems completely unashamed of his own decidedly checkered past. So when he recently announced that he was going to hold a satanic ceremony right in the heart of the Bible Belt, you can imagine how that went over. ABC's Byron Pitts was right there.
I proclaim that Satan Lucifer rules the earth. Come on, you evil prince of darkness, to destroy the fear of the Catholic Church.
In this darkened room in Oklahoma City, Adam Daniels, self-proclaimed head of his own satanic church.
For thou wert never, nor shalt thou ever be.
He is performing a ceremony of sorts in which he spits and stomps on the symbolic body of Christ. It did not go unnoticed. Christians by the hundreds demonstrated outside the Oklahoma City Civic Center, Christian conservatives mostly.
You drove 6 hours to be here for this?
Yes, sir.
Why?
Conviction.
Nearly 1,400 protesters, armed with Bibles, across a choir, children in prayer.
In some ways, it feels like people showed up for a demonstration and a carnival broke out. Every denomination of Christianity you can imagine here, traditional, non-traditional.
What's inside that building is our enemy, and we need to be praising Jesus and not tearing each other down. We need to be together.
We're up to 14 physical members.
As for Daniels, his so-called church is a converted storage room in his house.
What does that smell?
A strong odor that wafts throughout he calls anointing oil. It reminded me of a musty locker room.
So you're like the Reverend? I guess
I
you would
like
say
my
Pope.
house to smell like sweaty
You're the Pope?
balls.
Yes.
Today, Adam Daniels works as a restaurant cook, but he is also a convicted sex offender.
You say that you are a religious leader, and you are also a convicted sex offender. You get how, for most people, those two things don't line up.
That's fine. They can have whatever thoughts they want to have, sir.
His tiny satanic group had drawn next to no public attention for years until
Shoot
now.
'em.
The group had threatened to desecrate one of the holy sacraments of the Catholic Church, the communion wafer, during this year's satanic ceremony.
It's really united our Catholic community.
The Archbishop of Oklahoma City, Paul Coakley, was outraged.
I still think there's a real danger involved in what's taking place here today.
Danger because?
I believe the powers that they are invoking are real. This isn't entertainment. This isn't a horror movie.
Isn't this about freedom of religion?
It is not about freedom of religion in my view.
Because?
This is more about hate speech, and the way I view it.
The Archbishop sees this as an assault on the soul of humanity.
I've witnessed demonic possession.
I mean, that sounds like stuff you hear in the movies, like The Exorcist.
Now, The Exorcist is based upon a true story. Satanic influences are real.
Oh, come on.
That movie still scares the shit out of me.
I'm a priest.
Fuck that movie,
I've
man.
seen it.
But
I
all
can't
this
watch that
uproar
movie.
created a viral sensation. The media
I'm all
outrage
freaked
touched a
out.
nerve.
God damn it.
The pews inside this local Catholic church are filled with Christians of several different denominations. Many here pray for Daniels and his followers, see them as outcasts.
This is the sigil to Lucifer.
Daniel insists he's more than that. He says he has supernatural powers,
fuck?
and he's dead serious.
Is it a
Somebody
Nazi
crosses you in a
too?
certain way. Why can't I use magic to attack them?
Magic?
Sure.
Nazi fucking sex
For instance, why wouldn't I have to curse
pedophile,
somebody?
Satanist.
Curse? Have you put
Who
curse
is-
anywhere?
For
who the
example,
fuck?
we had
I
a
don't
client
know.
whose mother was dying of cancer, and when the destruction ritual was done on him, it was to put his mother out.
Oh, come on. You can't be serious.
Very serious.
And so you think you're responsible for her death?
That's a possibility and a very high possibility.
Part of that is offensive.
Sure.
Part of it is incredibly
I just
arrogant.
watched an
Sure.
interesting
You're playing God,
movie
it
on
sounds like.
Hulu. It's
I
called
can.
Pilgrims, or The Pilgrim.
News of Daniel's
Shit.
demonic service spread quickly online.
wasn't too
100,000
sure about it,
people
but I
signed
put it
a
on.
petition
It was
to
pretty-
block
it was-
it. Many
it
of
was
them
alright.
angry not just because the Holy Sacrament would be desecrated, but it was stolen from a Catholic church. Or at least that's what Daniels and his group wanted the public to believe.
That's the big secret. There was never a stolen house. They're the ones who decided to claim we
Shut
had
the
a stolen
fuck up,
house.
Basic.
There's
You
a
suck at it.
Christian store. It's called Lifeway
That's
on
what's
Northwest
behind
Expressway.
you.
If you want to go up
Behind
take it
me.
tomorrow, where they sell all kinds of
Good night,
community gear,
Sharon.
to include the wafers.
Thanks for
I
hanging
am
out.
repentant of all sins and I embrace them.
Deception or downright lie, this small group got exactly what they wanted: attention. They meet at a local IHOP for waffles and strategy. Priority 1, security.
There is going to be
Oh,
a
they don't go
huge
to the
police
Waffle
presence.
House?
Do not come within 10 feet of any officer. The city is taking this seriously as a religious ceremony.
For many that support Daniel's right to religious expression, he crossed a different line with his plan to build an altar to Satan.
Keep us from the righteous, so may you and the Hatian.
His building material of choice?
Okay, so
debris
dude's a
from one of the
ginger,
deadliest
he's a
domestic
sex
terrorist
offender,
attacks in
probably
U.S.
pedophile,
history.
a Satanist.
Rebel from the Oklahoma City bombing.
Like, all
What?
wrapped into one. And he's
Sure.
fat.
Why?
Because it would have one of the most highly negative charges that you could have on energy-wise.
168
And he has white
men, women, and
eyebrows.
children were killed
A
in
ginger with white eyebrows.
That is a painful
But the rest is all
moment for this
ginger.
nation, certainly for this community, and you want to make an altar out of that?
Yeah, creation through destruction.
And striking a nerve is exactly what Daniels did to the religious community here in Oklahoma. It's the morning of the event, and as he and his followers start to set up over at the Civic Center, a protester has gotten through security.
Yeah, right? It's nasty, Nate.
It's my cross.
Why is it here?
It's like the parallel universe, Nate. I should make a video, like, showing this guy.
Took a
Then
anointing oil, gave
showing
me the
Nate.
cross, he splashed
Probably
it,
put
and he made a
Nate's
prayer,
face
and I
on this
caught him in the
guy.
middle of it, and he took off.
The man was never identified.
After he cleans that up, spit and defile it.
The service went on
They
as
make a
planned.
separate one that'll be on Pornhub.
The Exorcist, it was not.
Ave Satanas!
Ave Satanas!
Afterwards, we wondered if anyone who attended was at all moved. In a word, no.
So was it $20 well spent?
Can't say that. It's a little hokey.
Well, what do you think now if you've seen some of it?
I mean, it's okay. I mean, it's just, it's nothing to be worried about.
Most here believe Adam Daniels and his small band of followers will once again drift back into obscurity, freedom of religion, or freakish sideshow. It did remind us faith in America runs deep, in a country where all are welcome, if not embraced. For Nightline, I'm Byron Pitts in Oklahoma City.
I think being yourself is something that is so distorted in our world. Everyone's putting a mask on somehow. And Satanism is where you get to take that mask off and you get to say, you know what, I know I get angry, I know I get fearful, I know I get anxiety, I know I get jealous, I know I have these parts of myself, but I'm not going to let that get me down or feel guilty about it. But I am going to use that to help me to grow. And that is Satanism. There's no human or animal sacrifice within the Satanic Bible. It does not condone that criminal behavior in that sense. The reason also why we're so anti-human animal sacrifice is because
I don't know what the
Satanism
fuck
is the
she's
religion
talking
of the
about,
human,
because I do
and we
remember
revere
reading
life.
about
So to take
animal
life
sacrifices
is
when I read
completely
the Satanic Bible a
unsatanic. We
long
want
time ago.
everything to live and to be prosperous and to grow. Another ritual that's heavily misunderstood is our lust ritual. That is the ritual where you are working to attract a partner for yourself. Again, you're going to create a visual in your mind of what the qualities are you want your partner to be, or you're going to write it on a piece of paper in that sense, and then you're going to raise energy. So the energy that's being raised there is not an orgy for all the people who think it is. It's purely a sense of getting in touch with your own sexual energy within inside yourself. And that's a very private ritual, not something to be done in a group in that sense. And then that is how you then raise that vibration in order to
Where do you think
attract
she
a partner.
stores all of those crystals?
when I first picked it up, I mean, I wasn't looking for a religion at the time. I was really just in my life, kind of, I thought I'm done with religion altogether. And then when I picked it up and I started reading it, it was like, oh my word, this is me. This has always been how I've looked at the world, and I kind of can feel now I can put a label on what I am. And it was amazing. I mean, that's why, and that's how I got into satanic philosophy and Satanism in the first place. We've got some medical professionals. We have a lot of people in corporate. We have drag queens coming in full drag. We have, yeah, like I said, all types of people. They don't necessarily look like me, or, you know, someone that I think a lot of people would perceive as what a Satanist would look like. There's no way to say that everybody looks exactly the same, because in Satanism we honor that individual part, that thing that makes you you, and we encourage people to be that at all times.
A 19-year-old by the name of Miranda Barber has been arrested, and so has her newly wed husband, because of the fact that they killed a man that they met on Craigslist. Now, according to authorities, Miranda Barber, a petite woman with long brown hair, told investigators she met a 6'2", 278-pound victim after he responded to her Craigslist ad offering companionship for money. They agreed that he would exchange $100 for sex with her, and when they met up, she proceeded to stab him 22 times with a knife, and her husband tied a cord around his neck. Now, after she got arrested, she pled guilty, and so did her husband, to this murder, but she also confessed that she killed as many as 22 other people, beginning at the age of 13, and it was because she joined a satanic cult. So authorities said that they're going to investigate those leads, but they do believe that what she is saying about the other murders is credible.
So yeah, one of the detectives had a scary quote about, unfortunately, you know, they're really worried that she might be telling the truth. And she says, I don't care if you believe me or not. I confess to this, and if you let me out of prison, I will kill again. Okay.
She also, we should be clear about this, she is not remorseful whatsoever. She feels that she did the right thing in killing these 23 people.
So number one, I never understand satanic cults, because if you believe in Satan, you know he's on the losing side. So it just, I don't get it. I don't get it. I mean, if you don't believe in the text at all, that makes all the sense in the world to me. But if you read the text and you're like, okay, that guy who always loses, I'm on his side. Like, I just don't understand it. And then for this particular woman, they're calling her a Craigslist killer. I hate that for a couple of reasons, right? I mean, it is, that's what everybody's calling her. But there's wonderful things that are going on in Craigslist. She happened to use Craigslist. She could have, in the old days, she would have used the phone book. And then she would have been the phone book killer, right? And she's the one that ruins it for everybody else, let alone the 22 people she might have murdered, right? But now, everybody who's going to go have a good time on Craigslist doing one thing or another, it doesn't have to be about sex. They were going to get $150 for a fridge that they were going to throw out, right? And everybody was going to be a winner. But now they're going to be worried because there's this people out there that use Craigslist to murder people for no reason, right? Yeah. And so it's so depressing.
I'm always a little uncomfortable or worried about Craigslist, like meeting up with someone to exchange an item, or like, let's say you're moving and you want to get rid of a bunch of stuff, like my friend recently did. And you know, you meet with these people in person, obviously, to exchange this stuff, and it's scary. I mean, you hear stories like this, and it does scare you, and it does ruin it for everyone else. But what I want to know is, let's say she's telling the truth, and she actually did kill 22 people, starting at the age of 13. How did she manage to kill that many people without ever being suspected of murder until this very moment?
Well, you know why? If you kill the right kind of people with no power, for whatever reason, because they don't have a lot of money or whatever it might be, well, that's less likely to get solved. Jeez. Okay? Now,
by the way, the father of her 1-year-old also died, and authorities are looking into that as well.
I mean, if they weren't looking into it, it would be gross negligence. This might be a one-woman killing machine. And I'm always amazed at how many people get away with murder. But if they don't solve it in the first couple of days, they usually give up on it. And I'm not trying to be unfair to the cops. It's much harder after the first couple of days. So at some point, they got to put it at the back of the line because there's new cases that come forward, right? Once it goes to the back of the line, you're screwed. right?
Yeah.
And especially if she keeps traveling, it's going to be much harder to find. Usually, the cases that get solved are, oh, there was a fight. They were married. The husband killed the wife, or the wife killed the husband. Okay, we solved it, right? That's easy. That gets solved. If it's a stranger, it's much harder to solve. And sometimes you'll get detectives that'll dive in there and do some great work. A lot of times, detectives are like other human beings. They'll do what's easy, and they'll leave the hard ones aside. Next thing you know, there's a lot of people dead across the country. The 22 have not been confirmed.